The Thinking Tackle Podcast.
Kitchen, done a few kitchens.
Yeah.
Kitchens. But
Yeah.
kitchens and couches is like the staple. Yeah.
That
And we've done a
makes it-
conservatory the other day. Yet to do a
Who
bedroom.
was that?
Yet to do a bedroom. Chris Ball.
Chris Ball,
Conservatory.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His wife was at home, so we had to go outside. And I'll tell you what, it was the worst thing I've ever done because it was hot outside. Don't know the temperature exactly, but his conservatory, I was sweating, and I'm like to the point of, and I was stuck up against the glass behind this little, because it's a tiny little conservatory, and I've got to get 3 cameras in it, and stop you from being able to see the reflections of the cameras. It's not very easy to do in a glass room. Yeah, it was so hot, and by the time I'd finished, I hated him. I was just like, I need to get out. I just hated him. I love him. Like,
Right.
But that room, I hated anybody that was in
It
that
was his
room with
idea
me.
to use the conservatory.
No, it was mine.
Right.
But it was
Right,
just-
okay.
I couldn't hate myself, so I just had to be out of that room. I couldn't look at Rich, who was filming it with me, or Chris anymore.
Yeah.
I just had to go, because we interviewed him for probably 3 hours in total. It was put it this way, it was so hot in there, right, that my cameras were shutting down. They were turning off, and I've never had that happen in all the years I've filmed. I've never had a camera shut down because of the heat.
Yeah.
And they were we're mid-conversation, and one would just go, "Doo-doo-doo," gone, battery gone, 0 battery. And I thought Rich hadn't charged his batteries properly. He had. And that's how hot it was. It was shutting the cameras down.
So were you guys, did you have towels around your necks and everything? Like,
Rich was fine. Rich was sat in an armchair,
yeah.
just interviewing 80, and I got the short straw that time.
And Chris was fine?
Chris was fine. They
Used to
looked
the
fine.
heat, obviously.
But they weren't stood. The sun was on the conservatory like a little bit. And the reason they didn't have sun on was probably because my body was blocking it out. Honestly, I swear to you, I've never been so hot in my life. Ever. But
Yeah, you've got to work in
that's how
different
it goes,
conditions, mate, haven't you?
You have, yeah.
Elliott Gray, welcome to the podcast. Okay. How are you?
I'm good.
It's taken
Good,
a while
I'm
to get
looking
going
forward to
today,
this.
hasn't it? But
Mhm.
yeah. So at the start of the show, as usual,
Yeah.
we ask for a gift.
Yes.
Have you got
and
anything nice?
I have brought you this picture.
We've got a picture here.
So,
Can you just explain to the listeners what we're seeing there, mate?
so this was on my wall at Korda for pretty much the entire time that I worked there. It's a picture I took on the first DSLR camera that I ever got, which was a film camera. Don't ask me to tell you which one. January of 2007. And it's a Carp kettle shot. Sorry, I should hold it up again. It's a Carp kettle shot, the sort of picture which I now do not take because...
But you take very well, actually, don't you?
Well, it's not composed that well, actually.
Do you remember my kettle, by the way?
Yeah, engraving it. No,
The engraved.
taking pictures of the...
I had an engraved kettle which you done, and it did look very good. Everything in your everything looks very, very.
Go on.
Thanks for that,
You
mate.
can
We
have it.
will add that. The table's getting full now, isn't it?
But yeah, so that was a picture I took, and like I say, the Carp kettle shot kind of went very quickly out of fashion because it...
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Did
I
you
don't
start
take
the
them
Carp
anymore.
kettle
No.
trend?
Oh, no. I probably saw it in a Terry Hearn book.
Did you?
Hence the setup in the background, the Nevilles and that.
Yeah, he sort of done it by accident, didn't he?
Yeah, but it's a lovely shot.
Yeah.
And, it's atmosphere. Steam is atmosphere, isn't it? A steaming lake, atmospheric, steaming kettle, there's atmosphere there. But that was on my wall at Korda for pretty much the entire time that I worked there. It was one of the first pictures I ever took on a DSLR camera. As you know, my life has kind of been carved in that direction, photography, fishing, blah, blah, blah. And I took that when I left Korda, that came home with me and has been in my garage ever since, doing nothing. And I nearly threw it away, but I didn't throw it away. And then when you said, can I have something to put on the desk that means something to you, I said to you on the phone, no, you definitely can't, because anything that means something to me,
I'm not having.
I ain't giving it to anyone. But I thought, actually, that picture means quite a lot to me, but it belongs in this building, in my opinion.
It's found its way back to
Yeah.
its home.
Yeah.
That did set off a bit of a trend. I mean, because now everybody does love those sort of carpy pictures, don't they, as well? Back in there, it took a while to develop, didn't it? But that is because it creates an atmosphere, and it's about making people feel like they're actually there.
Yes, like a photograph is a magical thing, bad or good. If it's a beautiful thing or a bad thing, if you've got a picture of it, a picture will always remind you of either how good it was, how bad it was, that's a memory, isn't it? A
Yeah.
picture, you know. And I much prefer pictures for memories than I do video. I don't really video my carp that I catch, but I will always photograph them.
And you said as well that you prefer to have a lot of your pictures taken on the mat as well, which not a lot of people tend to do that, do they?
Yeah, not so much. I don't prefer them to be done on a mat as such. Like, if it's a big fish or a carp that means a lot to me, I always will try my hardest to get someone to come down and do my pictures. But I don't take self-takes very often. It's a bit of a mess about. But for smaller fish, like, you know, I want a picture of, rather than mess around with a mat and... You know, because the small fishes, they go crazy on the mat generally, don't they? I will always try to take some pictures of them on the mat instead, because, as I've sort of said to you in the past, a 17-pound mirror, you know, once you've got a load of pictures of them, and I've got lots of pictures, they become just held up like that, shot from a wide. Because they're small, you don't see everything that's good about them. Whereas if you lay it on the mat, and take a picture of its head, its tail, those little cluster of scales by its belly or whatever. When I look back at that 17-pound mirror, that's a much fonder memory than just me like that.
But I think that's you as well, isn't it? Because we've also said, you know, that a lot of people want these pictures to see themselves in the picture. Look at me. Yeah. Whereas, you know, your focus is a little bit more towards the, the quarry, what you're after. Which is, you know, that is the most important part of it.
I would have tried to be a model, I think, instead of a fisherman, if I wanted the picture to be more me, more me than the fish.
Yeah.
But.
So anyway, so at the moment, what is a day in the life of Elliott Gray like, mate? It sounds interesting.
Okay, so generally, I wake up in the morning with my baby next to me. Just had a kid.
4 months old?
4 months. My missus will generally be quite horrible to me, hostile. I don't get up in the night, she does. You know, she does all the... And I love her for that so much, you know. But as I often remind her, it's really easy to bring up a child, and it's not easy at all to be a fisherman and have a job. You know, women get it easy. I always say to her, being at home looking after a baby, which of course isn't the whole truth. But I have to do things that mean that I do need to go to sleep, and she's got the short straw because she gets up with a baby, you know. And I do wake up to the baby, but I don't have to do the nappy changes in the night and all that. So generally I wake up in the morning, she loves me, but she hates me at the same time. I spend a little while in bed, unless I've got to be up really early. You know, I'm either up really early to travel somewhere, filming, fishing or whatever, in which case I'll give them both a kiss goodbye while they're asleep. So
you wouldn't get up for an early morning run or a bit of exercise first, mate? No.
I don't really do exercise. I've been there and done it. Mum and Dad have got a gym. They beg me to go there all the time, but there's not enough time in my life to do that, you know. So yeah, I get up in the morning, whatever time it be. I go out to work or I go fishing. I come home, I'll cook my missus dinner, spend some time with my kid, and then I go back to bed, and that's kind of pretty much my existence. I go out of a weekend every now and then, sometimes with her, sometimes with my friends, but my day-to-day thing is like, I get up, I go to work or I go fishing.
Your work is well. I mean, is it? So you've got a deadline to work to. We'll talk about Cypography later, anyway. Yeah. But is it a 9 till 5 thing, working like that, or does it take up every day of the week?
No, but yes, at the same time, it depends what you class as your job taking up all your time. I cannot stop thinking about my job ever. Yeah, so I may not be I might go fishing. Yeah, for 3 days. I'm not working when I'm fishing. Sometimes I am. There'll be a camera there, but I might go fishing for 3 days. Yeah. Physically, I'm not working. I'm fishing. I don't spend a second where I don't think about what's going on. You know, I've always got something's being planned. I'm thinking about something. I've got emails coming through. I've got this to, you know, it doesn't end. Some jobs, you go to work in the morning, you start at 9 o'clock, you go home at 5, and then it's done until the next day. I can't have that, you know. If I was to go home every day or just go fishing for 3 days and forget about my job, there would be something.
Are all the ideas coming from you for Cypography?
Not everything. Largely, they come from between me or Rich. Me or Rich, generally. Of course, there's outside, you know, sometimes there is influence from outside. I've got a lot of mates who will ring me up, message me or whatever. I think this would be a good idea. Why don't you do this? Sometimes we do, sometimes, you know. it's not such a good idea, we don't. But what Cypography is, and what it started as, that was that was from us. Not, I don't want to say yes, that was from me and make out like no one ever had an impact or whatever. But Cypography was my chance to do my thing, and that's what it has become.
Yeah. And I guess getting out and being fishing regularly is that's inspiration for what you're gonna end up putting out on Cypography as well.
Yeah, like
is that your excuse for going fishing regularly? Anyway?
Yeah, see, I don't get to go as much as I used to, because of the baby and that. I'm on 2 nights a week at the minute.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I've always fished, yeah. So ever since I was, when I was a kid, I don't remember how old. My dad's got this little book, yeah. So it's called The Happy Book.
I've heard this. It sounds great.
So it's called The Happy Book, and I advise anyone who's a parent to do this off the back of it, because we look at it now and it's so funny. But it's called The Happy Book. He didn't call it that, it just says it on it. It's a big sunflower with a smiley face called The Happy Book. And in this book, you've got me, my brother, and my little sister. My sister's 10 years younger than me, so she was the accident. True story, she'll hate that. But in this book, anytime we said something funny, me or my brother, my dad would write it down. So the one I mentioned to you the other day was me, like 6 years old, in the garden with my dad, looking at the shed, and I've just gone, with the right pair of gloves on, I reckon I could punch straight through that shed, Dad. Yeah. My brother's ones are different, they're more him, and you see these traits as a kid. I won't go through some of the other ones because they're like, you shouldn't say them, but you have that innocence of being able to say things like when you're a child and that. But mine were always about stuff that, horrible things, gritty, horrible stuff. My brothers were nicer things because he's a nicer person than I probably was when we were young. But you see from such a young age, even from 4 or 5, you're like, if I read them out, because my dad's got them on his website, but if you read them out, who said this one? You always get them right. If you know my brother, if you know me, you'd always get them right. But to look back at, if you're a parent, I'm 100% going to do it with my kid.
You need a creative parent to do. Your dad, Elliott Gray, is quite a well-known author, isn't he?
Yeah.
So I mean, that creativity. I mean, that's a good influence to be growing up around that, and seeing that sort of slightly wackier side to.
So like my mum and dad are very different. My mum's an accountant. My dad was in advertising for 25 years. And I always ask him, why did you go from advertising to being writing children's books? But what he's always done in advertising, because you've only got 30 seconds or a minute, maximum of a minute, to get your point across. You got everything has to be said and done in a minute. Children's books are short. You've got a certain amount of words to get across some crazy story. My dad got bored of working in advertising. He's a bit of a nutter. Like, he collects things. He's got a sweet collection of kids branded stuff with children's characters on, Superman, Batman, that's probably goes back 35 years, and he's got it all in glass cabinets bigger than this room in a warehouse somewhere. It's all rotten. And who would do that? But he likes that sort of thing, so he collects them. He collects pogs. Remember the pogs? Slammers and all that? Yeah. He collects them. He collects cigarette cards from when he was a child. He collects all the toy guns he's ever had since he was a kid. Or he had that he grew up with. He buys it on eBay. He's a bit weird, my dad. And my mum's a total opposite. She's an accountant. Boring. Not boring woman, but the boring job, that my dad could never do. And my mum looks at what my dad does and she's like, what on earth are you talking about? But he can use it now. Do you think when he was when he was writing these observations, was he creating characters through his children for his books or anything, or was it just not so much? No, people have asked him that. I don't think I've ever asked him that.
No,
he's written books that are about us. One was called, I think he's done called. There's one book called Nuddy Ned. Right, it's about this kid who runs around naked. That was me when I was a kid. I used to be super naked, man, and I used to run around my house naked. Nuddy Ned came from that. But some of his books are funny. He's written a lot now, probably 50 odd books he's had published, something like that. But he's gone into doing big thick books as well, 400 pages thick.
Right.
He's written books about, there's one called Mum and Dad Glue, and it's for a young kid to read. It'd probably make you cry if you read it, and nearly does me. It's about a kid, for children to understand why their parents split up. When you're 5 years old, your mum and dad break up, you don't know why they broke up. So there's loads of stuff, but his mind is always, his mind is always thinking. He has ideas for restaurants all the time, you know. He has ideas for everything you can possibly imagine, you know, and it's good to have that around you but that can't rub off on you, I don't think.
Right.
It's in your head or it's not.
Okay.
You can't make yourself be that person. You just are or you're not.
But you seem to have more of a creative flair than your brother and sister are more academic, aren't they?
Yeah, my brother was quite quiet. My sister's like a cross between me and my brother. She's outspoken. She's really intelligent. She just started at Oxford University, so she's really intelligent.
Yeah.
You know, super intelligent.
What does she study?
English literature. Yeah, there you go. You know, and she's been an A-star student since she was 10. Every exam, and she'd come home from a school and say, "We'd like, how'd you get on your exam?" She's like, "I got every question right." She knows she got them all right. You know, I wasn't that kid at school. I was intelligent, and I probably could have done. Well, definitely could have done a lot better than I did, but I weren't that interested in it. I liked some stuff. When I did art, I sat at the back of the class or sat at the front, wherever I was sitting, and I'd done my art. But you put me in a science lab, I just want to throw stuff around the room, and I want to make, you know, I want to misbehave.
Yeah, because it sounds like, you know, the difference between science and art is science, everything's written and it's all proven, isn't it? It's all stats, whereas being creative, you can go as far away as you want with it, like you know, writing books.
Like if you're a creative person, nothing can be, there's always a way of making something interesting, even if it's not. But in science, if they'd have said, "Oh, how can you make this interesting?" I'm sure I would have found a way. But the minute I'm sat in a science lab and they want to tell me about gas, how gas forms, and I've decided I don't care about that. I'm gone. You've lost me, you know, and I'm not coming back from that.
Could your dad ever try and
big time.
Try and, you know, convert how he writes and how he gets a story across into academic stuff as well? To you,
the thing with me and my. Sorry, what do you mean?
Yeah, that wasn't very well explained. So your dad seems to have quite a simplistic kind of way of being able to get a story across to a child.
Yeah.
So could he do the same thing with academic subjects?
I'm not sure. Me and my dad and school became like a bit of a. When I was about 14, it became a ground we didn't really talk about anymore.
Right.
I was always good at school until I became a teenager, and then I wasn't good at school, and my mum and dad were really disappointed by that. I remember my first parents' evening, and it was horrible. Like my first parents' evening at my new school, secondary school, and they were distraught. You know, and it was bad for me. I weren't allowed to do this, I weren't allowed to do that, and they really clamped down on me. And that was probably the beginning of my rebellious stage. That lasted till I was probably 20 years old, I guess, through school, out of school.
So what was that then? You weren't struggling to learn. Were you being disruptive in class?
Yeah, I didn't want to go to school really. I like going to school to mess around with my mates. I didn't really like going to school to learn. I just didn't really care about what I was learning about, you know. And you spend all this time at school being told, you know, you need to learn about this, you need to learn about that, and if you don't learn about it, you're not going to succeed in it. That is so far from the truth, you know. A lot of the lads I went to school with, and girls, the cleverest ones, they don't do nothing now. You know, and the people that done the worst at school, they do the most. You know, and I was kind of in the middle. You know, I got good grades, but not amazing grades. But I got good grades because I did listen, I did pick up on things easily, and I didn't have to try as hard as some kids did to get a good grade. You know, I could do the bare minimum, and I could do all right off the back of that. And some kids would try their socks off, and they wouldn't do as well because it's harder for them to learn. I just picked things up a little bit easier. Like I said, I didn't get incredible grades. I didn't get terrible grades, but I had such a good time at school, and I could sit here for 3 hours now and tell you all the things we've done at school, which I do not regret a single second of.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
You know,
but it sounds like you're because you are a very creative person, that you're just not being challenged enough within the normal kind of academic sort of realm.
Not even that, it's doing what you want to do, and I've never been able to do something I don't want to do.
You said with art classes,
I wanted to do art.
Yeah,
and I like RE. You wouldn't have expected me if you'd have met me when I was a kid. Would you like RE? You'd think I say no. I loved RE because I could sit there and I could challenge. I'm not a religious person. I could challenge.
Yeah.
religious belief. I could challenge the Bible. I could challenge this, and that to me was fun.
Yeah, they can't turn around and say, right, no, this happened then, that happened then, and you can actually that's
Yes,
the great thing with religion in a way. I mean, it's a totally open book, isn't it? Yeah, you got to be a little bit careful.
But that's the basis, you know. There is no right or wrong. I can't sit in a science lab and say that ain't right. They're like, no, it is. Look, read
but you
it
can
here.
challenge.
Yeah, it's there, you know. But I can sit in a science lab, face all the Bunsen burners towards each other, light one of them, and get them all to join up into this big flaming inferno, and then get thrown out for it. That was fun to me when I was a kid. You know, those sort of things were
You
fun.
sounded like an ADHD kid as well.
It was a bit like, there was loads of us like it though. We were all like it, you know. We used to walk around, just set the fire extinguishers off, you know, just because it was like fun. It was like, but that's just
you hear
what we
musicians,
did,
all those type of, especially musicians. You know, you hear it so often, don't you, that it's you know, that school was a bit misspent and they were just bored with, because they knew that they were going to end up doing something a lot different to that.
Yeah, I think kids, like, you can tell a kid's probably one of the most manipulative kind of people that you can spend time around. You can manipulate a kid into thinking something, but at the same time, a child can be very easy to manipulate because you don't look at the bigger picture, you know. And, you know, some kids will mess around and they won't, you know. I could easily not have ended up doing anything with my life, you know. That could have happened, you know, because when I was at a kid stage, I had an attitude where I didn't try that hard to do things, you know, and that can cost you in life. But I made sure that at some point I tried hard at something, and it took me a long time to find it, what it was going to be. It took a lot of arguments with my parents. It took a lot of changes of direction, but in the end, I found something that I was going to work hard at. You know?
Would you, so bringing up young Arthur?
Yeah.
Now, I mean, would you encourage him to grow up the way you did, or would there be some lessons there?
That's the thing. Like, I've had a lot of people have asked me this.
Yeah.
Like, how can I turn around and tell my kid not to do this or not to do that if I had done it? But I think I probably will do the hypocritical thing because he doesn't know. But what I would never do is, if I really thought he doesn't want to do something, is force him to do it. You know, like, I'm not going to say, oh, don't worry, don't go to school. You know, if you don't want to go to school, don't worry about it, don't go to school. You know, I will make sure he does his very best that he can at school. But I think you've got to be, when you're a kid, you have to have fun, right? Because
have a strong, teach him a moral compass.
Yes, you know, don't turn out to be a dickhead. Like, and he can easily do that with the wrong parenting. You know, it's not hard for that to happen. But have fun as a kid, because as soon as you get to 17, 18, you can't have fun anymore. You can, but you can't just have fun. When you're a kid, you just go and have fun, don't you? Whatever that is, just go and have fun, because actually,
there's no
not
consequence.
A lot else matters.
Yeah.
As soon as you're 18, it's over. You want to go and just have fun? You can. When you're 19, you've got a year to catch up on.
Yeah.
You're still having fun at 20, you've got 2 years to catch up on. You know, when you're a kid, do what you like, but you've got to learn to try hard. You've got to learn the worth of things, and you've got to learn. But I'm not gonna, hopefully, have to say any of that sort of stuff to him. Hopefully, he'll just go to school, try hard, and that's that. You know, but I don't want him to go to school glued to a book the whole time and not be able to talk to people. You know.
Do you think you had anything to prove to your parents? Were you delivering some sort of a message to your parents then when you were behaving badly, that because of the way they were, that you felt you had to kind of not necessarily rebel, but that's your way of showing your identity, that I'm different?
I never felt like that at the time.
Do you think, looking back now, that was your way though?
I don't know. Like, I don't think I ever went to school and I just done what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Like, if I'd have found sitting behind my books really good fun, and my mum and dad wanted me to mess about, I would not have messed about. I would have sat behind my books, because that's what I found fun. So I don't think I never went to school to upset my mum and dad, because I would never want to upset someone on purpose, especially my parents. But I didn't do what they wanted me to do, because I didn't find it. It wasn't what I wanted to do. So the fact it was what they wanted me to do became irrelevant.
Yeah.
You know? And I done what I wanted to do. If you're not there to stop me, that's what I'm going to do. You know, unless you're in my ear all the time, then I'm going to end up doing what I want to do, especially at school when you don't give a shit about anything.
Yeah. But at least you can remind them now of what you've done, and I'm sure they're very proud of that.
Yeah. So,
should we get on to fishing a little bit? Early fishing memories.
Yeah, make
and,
me sound like some kind of like yob or
Oh,
something.
yeah, no, but it sounds great, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Hopefully the listeners like this. Do you like this, Tobe?
Yeah, no,
Tobe
of
will be
course.
loving this.
Yeah. I was gonna
Non-fishing stuff.
Mm.
Our best podcasts so far have been the least amount of fishing stuff possible, which a lot of people might disagree with listening to this.
Yeah, you wouldn't believe it, would you?
Yeah, I would believe it, because I've been doing these kind of interviews for a couple of years now, and you go in there, you go there because of what you know about them from fishing. That's always your in. Why are you in their house? Because they're fishing, and you leave and you know them.
Totally different.
Who they are.
Yeah,
not
it's
just
great.
and for some people the fishing side of it's the interesting bit. Generally, it's the other stuff.
It's
that's more
finding a
interesting.
balance. I went to a slideshow last night, actually, which I've never. Carp shows are not my thing, but we wanted to support a few people last night, and it's hard. I love what they're doing, and their accomplishments in fishing. But I think there's a limit to how much you want to hear, isn't there? And it's that's what we're trying to do with this. It's trying to have the stories, but you've got to paint a picture around the person as well. It's otherwise it becomes, it's what we were saying as well with we know people that have been carp fishing for years and years and they've caught lots of fish. It doesn't necessarily mean that when they pull those pictures out they've got great stories and great memories to go with it. But that's important, isn't it?
Yes.
It's what you're doing it for.
Mm-hmm.
So when did you start? Should we get into carp fishing?
Yeah.
When did you start carp fishing?
When I was year 8 at school. So I'd always fished. I don't want to be one of the people that sits there and goes, when I first caught a carp, like you hear the stories, right? This is the classic thing, and I've interviewed loads of people, and I've fished with loads of people. And you hear the story. It's like, I caught my first carp, and then after that I was hooked. I can't even remember the first carp that I caught. Yeah, so it's nothing. It weren't like that for me. Most people, like, you catch a carp, then you don't want to fish with anything else ever again. Like, I don't remember the first carp. I've got a picture of it at home somewhere. My dad has, actually.
It's actually got a picture.
There's a picture of it, yeah. And on the same day, I caught a roach on a bit of grass, and my dad caught an eel off the top on floating crust. So, yeah.
Still remember
Yeah,
it.
the kind of venue that it was, is probably, fish were catchable. But I don't remember that fish, and that wasn't it wasn't a turning point for me at all. I caught my first carp fishing with my dad, and we used to always fish. His dad had always fished. I used to go eel fishing with my dad, and he would sit up all night watching a starlight float. I wouldn't do that now. Most people wouldn't do that.
That was hard work.
My dad do that all the time.
Yeah.
No worries, no problem. We're going night fishing. What else am I going to do other than sit up all night and watch that float? So they're my earliest fishing memories, with my dad. Used to do a lot of pike fishing. But the carp fishing was never really a thing for me until I met a lad at school. It turned out he ended up being one of my best friends at school, and he was into carp fishing. I like fishing. The thought of going fishing for a couple of days on my own with my mate, so we done it.
So was it about size or anything like that?
It
Just
was
catching the
literally,
biggest
mate,
fish?
It was just someone at school that I could go fishing with.
Right.
That's what it was to start with him, yeah. And he had a matching setup and all that. And I remember seeing him with his matching setup and that. And even though I'd only been once, I was like, I need that in my life. I'd list like ropey old reel, mismatching rods. Everything was like all back to front and that. And I thought, I need one of them double setups. I need the 2 alarms, the pod and all that. And slowly we pieced it together. But the first carp that ever really made me go, wow, he caught it. I didn't catch it. He caught it. But I hated him for catching it, right? Because I was float fishing. He was carp fishing. I was float fishing for tench and stuff like that. And I'd caught, he hadn't caught nothing that day. I'd caught 8 or 9 tench fishing next to these pads at this little lake. And I let him have a go. So I'd caught 7 or 8, like I say, tench, 2 or 3 pound. Anyway, he's had a go, and he caught a 14-pound common on my float rod off my spot the next bite. And that fish, I remember being like, oh my God. And I'd caught carp, pike that were up at 16, 17-pound pike. But I don't know what it was about that carp. Maybe I'd been around bigger pike a lot when I was a kid because my dad, so I was kind of a bit used to it maybe. But when he caught that carp, I remember then having that wow feeling, And
What, the size of it?
yeah, it was.
And they look about 10 times bigger than
I don't know
they.
if it was just the size, But yeah, it was largely the size. But something about it. You watch I think partly what it was when the float goes under, that you actually have a battle to land what you hook. Most of the fish I'd ever caught on the float, even the tench, really, they weren't that hard to net them. I remember watching him play this fish on my rod for so long, and when it come in the net, so it was a bit of that as well. Not just the fish was big. It was like the battle wasn't won from the word go. We were thinking he's going to lose it in the bush that was down to the right or in the pads, So there was a lot of things I think about him catching that. But from then on, I was pretty hooked on it, and it just went from there. And I just fished more and more with him. When I was sort of 14, 15, I stopped going fishing.
Did you?
Yeah, started going back out. Started going out again. I used to fish with him for fun, holidays, weekends, and we were building a bit of an obsession for it. But at the same time, still like my football, still like going out. We used to go out causing trouble, and that's what I ended up doing again until I left school.
Causing trouble.
We did. That's what we did. I ain't gonna lie. We used to go out and do things that you shouldn't do, all the time, every day. Even on the way to school, we just try and find a way to get some geezers to chase us. That was our dream every day. Can someone chase us?
There's always a bit of fun in that.
So much fun, and I bought some Delkims one winter when I left school. Hadn't fished for the best part of 2 years. So sort of year 9 and 10 didn't really fish. Year 11, as I was about to leave school, bought some Delkims one winter. Don't know why, just bought them. Went fishing with them. Flame reignited. Don't know how weird is that. Didn't catch nothing. Just like watching them bleep and that. It was amazing. And I wanted to go fishing again. And then we left school when I was 16, and I think I'm right in saying that from the day I left school to the day I was supposed to start college, we spent 8 or 9 days at home. So we were doing 17 night sessions.
It went from 0 to quite a lot quickly.
What
about your guest you mentioned at the Fisheries? When did all that come in?
So that was when I was, it was 2005. So I was probably, bloody hell, how old would I have been? I want to say, I don't know if that was yet. No, that was pre-2005 in that folder.
So it was...
I was younger. I was 13. That would have been when I was fishing with my mate around for the couple. So my mate caught this carp on the float. For a couple of years, I fished with him a bit on this same lake. That carp that I caught then, my first double, that was from that period, before I stopped fishing for a couple of years.
That was a nice guest as well, mate, wasn't it?
So
I mean...
I could have got on the Fisheries.
Did you realise the significance of that lake?
Absolutely not. No.
Right.
And I'll probably I remember writing the word "the Fisheries" somewhere once, and I got messages from people, can you take that comment down? Because they're so precious about the lake, aren't they? Whatever. The Fisheries, my dad's friend has been a member for 25 years, and he took me there as a kid, knew I was keen as mustard. My dad obviously said to him, he loves his carp fishing. My dad liked carp fishing, and he'd have been there with him as well. I think I'd been there once before, did a pike match with my dad and him. But we went to the Fisheries, and I met Bob Baker. I met a geezer called Mick. I don't know his name, this Mick fella, but he showed me an album of carp. My PB's £8, at this time, £8.6. I remember it. He showed me this album of fish from the big lake at the Fisheries. Oh my God, I was blown away. I was blown away. But anyway, we done these 2 days, and they gave me some bait, and I've always tried to find out who this Mick fella is, because he caught carp, caught them, And I asked people that fish in the valley, like, do you know this fella? Do you know this fella? And I did speak to someone the other day. I think might have been Terry Dempsey, who thinks he knew who it was. But they had this bait, this tiger nut bait, and it's the most beautiful smelling, natural smelling bait I've ever smelt. And he gave me some of it, long story short. I took it home. I went to this lake with my dad, and I caught my first double. And I tell you where I caught it from, casting across from one bank to the other to the bush that my mate caught the 14-pound common from at the start. I cast... I'm not float fishing anymore, so I don't need to go around there. I used to fish against that bush from the far bank. So as my mate stood in the swim, he caught this fish down to the left, to the right of the swim, the bush that I said we thought he might lose it in. I used to cast across to that from the opposite bank. Now I'd got matching set up carp rods, and I could do that, and that's where I caught my first double from, having blanked at the Fisheries for 2 nights on the new lake.
That's a good place to probably go and get a sample for carp fishing, though, isn't it? I mean, it gives you. I mean, did going somewhere like that have an effect on you, or would you have just found that anyway?
No, it did. I think it did. Seeing that scene, like I remember, I'm fishing a lake that's just like it's like it's a puddle. It's like it's a lake where you go like when you start carp fishing. I've gone from a lake where you start carp fishing, to the creme de la creme. What I would still say is probably the ultimate ticket to have is a fisheries ticket.
We might not be getting on there now after this.
No, I ain't got no chance. I was offered a ticket.
Right.
So when I was a kid, my dad's pal put me forward. He said, you can have a ticket, but they said I've got to fish Weller Pool first for a year. 3 lakes on site: Big Lake, New Lake, Weller Pool. Yeah, you got to fish Weller Pool for a year. And I'm like, why do I want to fish Weller Pool? I want to fish where the 40s are at, bearing in mind PB is £8. I was just like, I want to fish there where the big ones are, where them blokes who I met fish. And they said, I could have my ticket, but I've got to come to the Horse and Barge pub for a meeting on my own, not even with my old man. I'm 13, yeah? And this is in London. And I was like to my dad, no, what? I'm not doing that. I just wanted immediate fishing on the big lake and all that, yeah. I weren't willing to go and do that, and I wouldn't have done it anyway. I don't think my dad would have even let me go and do that, sit up in a weird room with them old boys. And
would you do that now?
100%.
Would you?
Yeah, I'd give him my missus for 24 hours to have a ticket on there
Yeah.
now. I'd let her go out there for 24 hours. I'd do anything to fish there now.
Right, yeah.
Anything.
Yeah.
Within reason. I would do anything for that ticket.
But yeah, it's a
I'm not
special
allowed
place.
it. I'll never get it, so... But I could have had it, and that actually is quite a funny story that,
It is.
I just turn my nose up at it, like, no way am I driving up there to have a meeting to fish a lake I don't even want to fish. That would have been the best thing, that would have been the best move I've ever made in my fishing.
There would have been a lot of people driving from one end of the country to the other, or travelling, show me where they are, and
that's, ignorance, I didn't know.
That's all right, isn't it?
I didn't know.
We live and learn.
It's one of them things, isn't it?
I looking at pictures and stuff of you, you look very, very carpy all the time. Would you term yourself part of the carp the carpy gang, or?
So this is obviously Daryl mentioned this the other day, called me super carpy in his podcast and all that. Yeah,
you are super carpy.
Yeah, so that's what he called me. It annoys me, always has annoyed me, like the whole carpy thing. I'm sure there are people out there that do something. They do things to look a certain way or to be perceived in a certain way, It's very easy in this day and age to dress a certain way, buy a certain setup, rods, reels, read a couple of magazines, bowl up to a fishing lake and talk like you know everything. Because you can so easily get that information. You've only got to remember what's been said. But you can look the part. I've never done things so that someone looks at me and thinks, oh, look at his buzz bars. He's well cool, I like to do them sort of things because when I look at my rods, I like to look at them and go, oh, I think they look nice, And if I thought they looked nice back to front, upside down, one pink, one red, one yellow, that's what I would use. Whether you told me it was good or not, whether Terry Hearn did it or not, We all went through that phase, of seeing a Terry Hearn, reading Terry Hearn's book. We want to buy the Nevilles, and I'd done that. I bought the buzz bars and that, but I looked at his setup and I thought that looks wicked. I like it. It looks nice, and I don't think there's anything wrong with liking how something looks. If I want to, bearing in mind I fish every week, if I want to look at my rods and think my rods look nice, so what? That doesn't. I'm not trying to be carpy. A lot of the things I've done over the years, and lots of them have caught on, I suppose.
So what have you done?
Oh, I don't want to start listing things. The super tight buzz bars, camo taping my rod butts. There's things, and I ain't gonna sit here now and preach like I've done this and everyone's copying me.
No, but it's just you being an individual.
I see things that I've done because I know no one's done, and I do them because I thought of doing it. I wanted to do it. It wasn't so that everyone would do it. They're just little things that when I look at my rods, I think, oh, they look nice. That looks nice. Aesthetics things that don't overshadow the bigger picture. I'm not there to look a certain way or whatever. I'm there because I want to be there fishing. But people then do them because they might think it looks really cool. And as soon as everyone does it, I don't do it anymore, But
you fish that way as well, though, don't you? You fish as an individual as well.
I try to be, yeah. But I always feel like I have been that, And everyone has phases in their life where they're people influence them. If you don't get influenced by people, then you're weird, in my opinion. But it's the term carpy, and if someone calls me, like Daryl did, if he calls me super carpy, by saying that, he's basically suggesting that I'm doing things for a reason and to be carpy. That I don't really like, because that's not why I've done it. I've never done things so that people look at me and go, oh, I just do it because I don't want to have the same set of rods as everyone else has got. I don't want my setup to look the same as everyone else has got. When I look at my stuff, I want it to look like my stuff. And when I look at someone else's stuff, I don't want it to look like my stuff.
And you said before, as soon as people start looking like you like to try and change everything.
Yeah, the SS3000 thing, I bought them. The day they were re-released, I bought a set. I bought 7 SS3000s. Still got one, I've sold the other. Still got 4, one's in a box, 3 I've sold, 3 I've still got. But I don't use them anymore because it got to the point where, first of all, no one had SS3000s. Then everyone had SS3000s, so I bought a set of tournaments.
Do you know what I noticed?
What everyone had at first, wasn't it? Terry Earn inspired, everyone had tournaments. SS's come out. You don't see tournaments anymore. So that's what I use. Like, I like the look of them reels. They're shit reels. They last forever, they don't break. I like the look of them. I use them because I like the look of them. Same as why I always use Neville's. They weren't the best alarms by any stretch. I used them because I liked the look of them, but it wasn't because I was trying to be carpy or trying to be someone else. Because if something was carpy and I didn't like the look of it, I wouldn't use it. And I wouldn't, that's...
And so there's a certain sort of criteria with your fishing as well, with where you're fishing and what you want to go fishing for as well. So that's as important to you as what fish look like and what weights are as well. So how do you feel about foreign carp and versus English carp?
So again, so another thing that Daryl mentioned.
I don't want to make a huge debate out of this, but it's interesting to hear.
Neither do I, right? But what I don't want is someone to listen to what Daryl said and think that, years ago I was quite militant about all this, yeah? If it was a foreign carp, I didn't like it, didn't want it to be around, didn't want it to be here, I'd rather they weren't, yeah? That was my stance years ago, and I was very vocal about it. I said things that I probably shouldn't have said, things that people take the wrong way. Nowadays, my stance is, it's happened, they're here, the foreign carp are here, they're not going anywhere, no one's going to take them away, so from this point onwards, there are only going to be more of them. If you want to fish for them, you fish for them, not got a problem with that. I don't want to lose the British record to one of those fish. That's a big thing for me. I just don't think the British record should be lost to one of those carp.
There's been a few examples recently where the British record potentially could have gone, and
it has been beaten.
Yeah, but no one's actually claimed it.
And also, they've been denied.
Yeah,
so why are they being denied? There's a reason. Yeah, simple. Let's put it this kind of simply. They wouldn't be denied if there wasn't a reason to deny them. That's that without going into anything. Simmos is another thing. This tarnished with this brush that you hate all Simmos. I don't hate all Simmos, I've caught Simmos. I've fished for Simmos. Personally, I've never targeted a Simmo. I fish lakes where they're in. Quite often in this day and age, you fish a lake that's got Simmos in. A Simmo to most people is a Brasenose style carp. That's what they think. That's not a Simmo. They go well back, The Fisher's Pond strain were the original Simmos. Simmos go back a long way, and there's a lot of carp that you can call a Simmo. People don't know they're a Simmo. That word came around when the fish seemed to be being bred big numbers, grow fast, and they kind of lost their character a bit. There's some really nice Simmos in the world.
Really nice?
Yeah, there's some really nice ones. There's carp, you would never look at them and say that's a Simmo unless you know about where they came from. And that's always been an important thing to me. Where do they come from? What is their story? Why are they here? And that's a big thing for me in my fishing.
That's an unfair tag as well on the on Mark Simmons and because he has bred some beautiful carp.
And at the moment, he's breeding he's on the best carp, the nicest carp at the moment.
Really nice carp, and potentially, a British record carp could come from that as well.
And I would have no issue with Mark Simmons' fish becoming a British record. My issue is when fish are bred, stocked purely for commercial gain, with no other real. If that's the only reason they exist, that's the only reason you've imported them, for example, or bred them in England. That to me is not a good. I just don't like that. I don't want to think of a carp as just this thing that is just there to be caught. Nothing else matters. We don't care about where it came from. We don't care how old it is, what its life has been, what its history is, or what its future will be, as long as we can sell tickets and make money off the back of it. To me, that is not what that's not what carp fishing is about, and it's not what really any animal should go through. Like, I go fishing because I want to catch certain carp, you know, and I fish lakes generally for one carp. If I choose a venue, very rarely does it have, well, I've never fished lakes with loads of big ones in. I pick one, generally. It'd be one fish in a lake, sometimes two, sometimes three if you're really lucky, but generally it's one target fish. And there's something special about learning everything about that carp, knowing everything about it, you know, that makes it so special individually. As soon as there's 50 of them, you know, even if they're all English and there's 50 of them and they all look the same, that doesn't interest me. There's lots of things, the categories that it's not just foreign carp or simmos that don't interest me.
It's individuality again, isn't it?
I'm not interested in beautiful carp. If they're 5 years old and they're beautiful carp bred in England, I don't want to catch them because they're just 5 years old. They don't. I just don't want to put a hook in them. Like,
do you ever get worried that you know, obviously these older carp are going to, you know, sort of die out, and you might have a period where it's like, right, what am I going to do now? Or
of course, like, they are going to go, and I think one of the saddest things that's happened is the fact that they're going to go with almost no, like, they're going to go and they're going to be gone. And one thing, like a common argument, is like all carp come from abroad. That's the big thing that, like, most people I've ever had this argument with, they always say, well, all of our carp came from abroad. Yes, they did. All of our best fish, our most wonderful, beautiful fish that I love, all pretty much came over as fingerlings from Europe, you know. But they came over in a time where carp fishing wasn't a massive industry, you know. It wasn't done. They were brought over here to be fished for and put into fisheries, but no one was stocking them thinking, I'm going to make thousands of pounds out of this carp, you know. And that's a little bit what can happen today. And that's where I think you draw the line. That's where I draw the line between carp that were brought over. At a certain point, there's a cut-off point for me where it became the reasons they were being brought over and the sizes they were being brought over at, the reasons for that changed. And it was more about money and greed rather than just, you know, Donald Leaney just brought them carp over. There was no real reason. You know, he probably done it because he wanted to do it. You know, if anyone who brings carp over here now, there's a very specific reason, in my opinion, why it's being done. Yeah,
we said that. Those carp that we're fishing for now, those older ones, you know, we said they're like an oil painting, that when they first go in, they're not, you could create this beautiful painting of something which looks absolutely wonderful, but no one really appreciates it straight away, and then it gets older and older and older.
Carp need age to be, like, carp can be fun to catch at any age, but to be incredible, to look at and go, oh my God, they need to be old, pretty much. They have to have that for you to look at them, or certainly for me, and probably a lot of other people, to look at a carp and go, wow, they're always old. They're never 5 years old, never. You know, and they don't get that character about age. And the carp that are brought into a lake, stocked at a young age and fished for from the minute they go in there, they're never going to get to that. Even if they reach the age, they're going to be in a bad way because they've been fished for and caught their whole life. You know,
that's interesting.
And that's I just want to catch fish with a bit of a story behind them. I don't care what anyone else fishes for anymore. Like, if it makes you happy, go and do it. As long as we don't lose the British record to it, then I'll just.
You made an interesting point about the British record as well. That you know, it might have been easier for certain carp a few years ago had actually been given the British record, and it would have just it would have.
So the big Wingham fish that was 83 pounds spawned up. I just wish they'd give that the record, you know, because it's English, so it's worthy of the record.
Because when people hear you say that, they think, "Well, hang on, what are you talking about?" But it's like then it clears it all up.
And then there'll be so many years until something comes into contest with it. You know?
But
there's nothing wrong with having that opinion. People make out like it's a problem with having that opinion, but you can't go to Crufts with a dog that isn't a pedigree and win awards. You can't. You don't qualify. Like, it isn't that, but like, it happens in loads of walks of life. It's not just like carp. There's nothing wrong with saying that one thing is more worthy of particularly a British record than another. It doesn't make you a bad person to have that opinion, you know. I care a lot about fishing, and I care about the sort of the heritage. I like that. It's a thing that I like, It doesn't make me a bad person to think that. You know, I don't think you're a bad person to go in and fish for them. So
absolutely,
why am I a bad person for having a reason why I don't want to fish for them?
Yeah, another example, isn't it? You know, just because you don't necessarily want to fish for that fish, and it doesn't mean as much to you. It doesn't. You've got to be conscious of other people. That means an awful lot to other people.
Mate, like I say,
take
years
that
ago,
away,
I've made the mistakes. I've said things and that.
Yeah.
I was young then. You know, I'm a lot older and wiser now, and I wouldn't say things. I remember that Tom Doherty geezer. He caught. I don't remember what the fish is called. He caught a big imported carp.
What was that recently?
A few years ago. The world went mad. He was getting death threats. People saying
Shropshire.
Yeah, maybe.
Right.
I don't know.
Terrible.
And they're threatening his kids and that.
He's just gone fishing.
Can't be doing that.
Yeah.
And I would never do that. You know.
Yeah.
You can't be saying that sort of thing to someone. Some people, they don't even know what they're fishing for. You know, 90% of people that probably go and fish for those carp, they don't know the difference. Just like when I was a kid, there was a lake next door to me, a lake that I sort of grew up carp fishing. There was a lake next door. The owner always argued and said that they weren't imported carp or whatever, they weren't foreign carp. I know for 100% fact that they were. It's never been proven, but...
Is that the one we got a picture of?
Yeah.
So did that change your opinion on that? Was there a point where you kind of decided you wanted to fish for certain fish or that, or was that just...
That was many years later before I formed any opinion. The thing I remember... that's again another something that Darryl takes the piss out of me for. He always says, "Oh, you cut your teeth on Cleveley." That's what he always says to me in private.
Right.
I.e., you learnt to fish on Cleveley. How can you have these opinion on carp when you fished a lake that had those fish in? Yeah. When I fished there, I didn't know what. It's the first Cinder lake I'd ever fished. I'd been seriously carp fishing for a year since I left school. When I fished there, I didn't know what imported carp was. I'd never read a Terry Hearn book. My hero at the time was Derek the Don Ritchie. I love him. He was my
slightly
hero.
Off the wall character.
Then, yeah?
Right.
But I didn't have opinions on carp. I didn't even know it was a thing. I just thought carp are a carp, whatever, they must. Didn't even enter my mind. When I first caught and saw those fish from that lake, I still didn't know at the time that they were foreign. Didn't know that. I didn't know that all carp in our country came from abroad at one point. I didn't know any of that. But I remember looking at them and thinking, what is that? It was orange and like white and yellow with two big scales on its belly, and the fins were orange and pointy, and its barbules were really long and it had no scales really, and it was like the skin was tight and like shiny, and I just remember thinking, they're not very nice, them big uns in here, you know, just to look at. When you compare it to the other fish that are in that lake, black, withered fins, character, scars, you haven't got to be opinionated or anything to look at those two carp and see why I can say that I prefer them ones. You know, and that was purely by me looking at them fish. Nothing, no outside influence from anyone. If anything, I thought them fish were meant to be the one. I thought they were meant to be like, you know, Derek was fishing for them. Derek the Don was like, and I was like, I want to be like you. You know, he was my hero back then because he made his living out of fishing, and that's what I wanted to do. And he was part of the reason I got me ticket. You know, like I just wanted to do what he'd done. But straight away when I saw them, something was wrong. You know, and they didn't make me want to catch them, and I can't do anything about that. You know, I can't change that. I can't make them make me want to catch them. They just didn't, and they still don't.
Yeah, it's a personality thing, isn't it? With individual,
yes,
you know,
it's
what
that,
you
yes.
know.
Yeah.
Sometimes I find it. I don't always have strong opinions on things, and I think, is that because you're weak and you don't, you know, or what is that? But certain people have just got that, haven't they?
The more you care about something, the more of opinion you'll have on it, I think.
Do you find you care about a lot of other things as well as that?
No, I couldn't give a shit about golf. Do you know what I mean? Like, I couldn't care. If someone wins a PGA Tour, whether it's called with a golf ball that's heavier than the rest and flies further, I don't care.
The rugby
whatever.
today?
You lot can sort that out. That has nothing to do with me, but no interest, whatever. Sort it out between yourselves. When it comes down to fishing,
focus.
I'm going to say something about it because I love it. I love fishing, carp fishing. I love carp fishing, and my whole life since I was a kid has been centred around it, and I, in my opinion, am entitled to have an opinion on certain things, and it doesn't make me
we all are, mate.
person.
We definitely all are, and you know, like I say, No one should be ridiculed for having an opinion.
Unless you're out of order about it. And I
Yeah.
have been in the past, and I apologise to anyone who upset maybe in the past.
Right.
But I don't make them mistakes anymore.
Yeah.
There you go. I said
Get
sorry.
you-
I don't say sorry very often, but I did.
You've heard it on here.
Just in case.
What
I
about
upset
Bovey 1 and 2? I don't know a lot about these
him.
lakes.
Yeah. So that's where I grew up fishing.
Yeah.
That's where, like, Bobby's 2 is where, when I bought my Delkims, where I went and fished. You know, that was the step up. It's where I caught my first 20 from. That was the step up from the lake round the corner where my mate caught the one on the float rod and I caught my first double and all that. That was the first lake I ever went to that was a proper carp water, where you weren't expected to catch all the time. You know, you go there and you didn't think you would catch. You go there hoping to catch rather than pretty much knowing that you would catch, you know. You were excited if you caught from there, whereas the other lake, you were gutted if you blanked. The other places, you know, so it was that step up between the uncertainty of maybe you actually won't catch anything. And that was the first place I caught a carp that I set out to catch. It's the first place I'd ever fished where, like, I knew there was a big common in there. I hadn't even seen it. And when I caught it, I actually thought I'd caught a different one because it was a smaller weight than what I was expecting.
So this is a fish that not everybody knew that much about at the time.
No, this one was quite well known in this lake. It was the lake next door where I fished years later down the line where there was a fish that wasn't. But this fish was a well-known, beautiful carp, incredible, big, long, black thing, length of.
Got a picture of that, Tobe?
Yeah, let me get that one up. Give you 2 seconds.
Yeah, quite a few people fished for it over the years. You know, it was a. Well, you'll see.
When I saw a picture of that as well, it did seem to set a trend with you because you see a picture that's like, whoa, that is
It's a big, long,
old,
black,
very,
scales in the background on the floor. I got my full DPM on.
There it is.
No, that's not it. That's
That's
later
Bobby
on.
2. Yeah,
is
that's
that the
later on.
Bobby
Don't worry,
2?
yeah,
That's Bobby's
alright,
one.
then.
That's Bobby's one. Go on, go back.
Let me have a look.
There's
Do you spray your carp black as well, or grey,
lake-
because
that lake
they're all
was-
black?
It was so beautiful. That water back then, it was crystal clear.
Yeah.
It was like that place was like the perfect venue. It's not now. It's been destroyed by constant angling. The swims are massive. It's lost its magic, you know. But back then, that carp fishing wasn't as popular back then. I sound like I'm young in the grand scheme of things, but I've seen a massive change in carp fishing.
I think we
Just
all
in the
have.
last 10 years, you know, how popular it's become. And that lake back then was beautiful. The water was crystal clear, full of the little baby lily pads. I don't know what they're called. I just call them baby lily pads. Full of the weed and the carp in there were black. You know, that's just how they were. Their environment made them that way. But the fish, if Toves, can you not find it, Toves?
Let me have a look. Is it? We got this one here.
Yeah, that's it. There you go.
Here we
Look.
go. Got there in the end.
I love the haircut there.
Isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you
Look
got a
how-
lot more hair there than you have now, mate.
Look at those eyes.
It's wicked, isn't it?
What
And
did
that's
they
not-
call you?
And that's not Terry Hearn inspired, I should say. That was just like, I'm going fishing so much I didn't get my hair cut.
Really?
Yeah, I was, and at school, to be fair, I thought it was quite cool.
Did someone say?
But it got out
What was
of
your
hand.
nickname?
What do you mean?
Eyes. Eyes. Was it?
Eyes, yeah,
Yeah,
that come
yeah.
later on.
Yeah, come later.
That come later. But that carp, yeah, that was the first.
That is it.
So that was a carp that was mind-blowingly big to us. Yeah, not like the 14-pounder was. This was like we're trying to catch these fish now, and that was like. I was with my mate. I say we fished. Me and my mate fished together all the time, and it was you know, we didn't really fish on our own. We fished together. That was a carp that. Pictures of shit. I could show you some pictures that some other people have caught of it, but I love that photo.
That would be one of my better pictures. How big was that?
It's 36 pound.
36.
Spawned out. It'd been 39, 40 pounds.
You look very carpy there, Elliot, don't you?
Full camo. I used to wear full camo because I used to like looking for them. And that. Why would you wear anything else other than full camo if you don't want them to see you?
I was the same.
Yeah, that was a fish that was a big turning point for me. That was in a period of my life where I really was getting into it. Not long after that, you know, my girlfriend was down there with me, and
Yeah.
I wasn't allowed to go to my school prom. I'd been told by my school I wasn't allowed to go, and then they'd allowed me to go. Can't remember why, but I was then allowed to go. But I didn't find this out until later on. And I was fishing at the time. My girlfriend was with me. I think she's the one that told me, and I was just like, I ain't going. I'm not coming home from here to go to this prom. And that day, she looked at me and she just went, I don't even know why I'm with you. Why am I even with you? Just like looking me up and down. Probably stunk terrible. I'd been there too long.
Did you stay together for very long
No.
after that?
No, she's a friend of mine now, to be
Is
fair.
she?
Yeah,
That's
we're
nice.
still
She's
mates.
still,
we
yeah,
do.
yeah.
But that was the beginning for me, really, of what has become me. You know, that's just after I left school.
Right.
And the year before, I wasn't even fishing. You know, but that was the turning point.
And then the lake next door to that. Then, so that was years later.
So that was 2006. That capture there. The lake next door. That's probably one of my favourite. That's why I've given you the picture of it. It's probably one of my favourite carp that I've caught for several reasons. Not only is it a lovely carp, it's one of the only carp I've ever fished for that wasn't unknown, but I've always fished busy lakes. I've always fished busy club waters, busy syndicates. Never really been one that goes like off the beaten track to fish for carp that like no one's ever heard of. Don't get me wrong, it's not because I don't want to. Like, I've just always fished on busy lakes, you know. And this was a carp that was set amongst
throw that one up, Tobe.
Yeah, I'll get it right this time.
Yeah, that was the one that was set amongst a load of busy lakes. And it came to my attention years down. We drive past it every day. You know, like people drove past it every day.
There
And
it is. Great picture, that.
Yeah, look at him, look, her. Drove past this lake every single day. No one ever paid any attention whatsoever because there was nothing in there as far as we knew. I fished other lakes in the area, never knew about that carp, you know. So when I was a kid, young, I wanted to basically, all the lakes in my area, that's where I wanted to catch. You know, some people have got these dreams of like, I want to go to here and catch the carp from there. I want to catch the carp from here. When I was 15, 16, and I was really starting to, I said to myself, I want to catch all the carp in my area. Yeah, I want to be the person that has caught from all the lakes that I've grown up around. And that was my goal. That carp was never even on my radar at the time because I didn't know it existed, which is what nowadays makes it one that I'm real happy about. But we used to drive past it all the time. One day, my mate caught it on a floater randomly. He was like, "Where's that from?" And he said, "The little lake down the, you know, that you drive past every day." He'd at 33 pound. He'd caught it, and a couple of years later, I decided, do you know what? I think I might have like not had anywhere to fish or something. And I told myself I was going to catch that carp at some point, and I thought, do you know what? I'm going to go on there now. I'm going to fish there, and I started my campaign fishing for that carp. No one really fished the lake. You get the odd bloke, but it didn't take long before.
Sorry, what was the rest of the stock in that lake then? You said there was nothing in there.
No. We didn't know that what was in there.
Yeah.
We didn't know what was in there.
Yeah.
There was loads of random carp. And I remember actually the night I caught that, I caught a lot of small fish out of there, like random ghosties and like little like runty weird things that had just been thrown in there over the years. And my mate texted me the night, about 10 minutes before I had the bite, 10 seconds before I had the bite from that carp. And he just texted me saying, "Have fun catching your shitters." Because that's all I used to catch out of there, was like just these little weird, but I knew what the ultimate prize was. I'd seen it in the snags a lot. I used to see it all the time down the car park end of the lake. And there was a guy that I met when I left school. I met him when I was at school. When I left school, he was very influential with me in showing me that carp fishing can be more than just going fishing with your mates and all that. It was a way of life to him. He went every day. He went to work every day. He went fishing every night.
We've got a shot.
And there is a shot of him. I believe you've got it.
Yeah.
He was, and he still is one of the. He's the most influential person in
We've
fishing, you know?
Yeah, we've all come across those people, haven't we, in life that are just what was it you saw in him that made you?
He just loved it. He just kind of showed me that actually you can have nothing else on your mind but fishing. And when you've got someone else, when you're me as a kid and all you want to do is fish, and then there's other people around you that aren't the same, it's easy to have your mind straight. Like the reason I stopped fishing for 2 years because all my mates didn't fish. So it's easy to then like lose that kind of, be dragged away. When you surround yourself with someone that's exactly like you and all he wants to do is fish, imagine how easy it is just to fish every day. And that's what I ended up doing. But he was influential in everything about my fishing, and he was influential in me catching that carp. He was a very, very, very good edge angler. And one day on there, I'd caught a few out of there. He'd started fishing it, as had quite a lot of other people. By the time I'd actually caught it, there was a lot of other people fishing there. They all knew I wasn't there for no reason, you know, and there was it was busy by the end of it, 10 on at weekends and stuff. But he told me one day he'd noticed how more confidently the carp feed close to the bank. We used to fish in the edge a lot, you see, there's a lot of snags around the lake, and normally, naturally you would fish off the front of a bush. You flick your rod down the side of it. He said they would feed more confidently in front of the boards, in front of the swims, And you don't need to give me a lot. Like, if you give me that information, I will run with it, especially if it's him. And I soon started to clock that myself, because he'd said it. And in the end, that's how I caught it, hand-placed rig in front of the board. And I noticed on there, the busier the lake got, the closer to the bank the fish got, They were just under your rod tips, out the way of your lines. It was that kind of lake. It was very small, very busy. And probably because they hadn't had the pressure for years and years and years, because it had got busy all of a sudden, they were very, very aware of it. But as soon as basically the far side of the lake, people didn't really fish around there. There were not really any swims. And I caught a lot of fish casting across, dropping rigs in. But in the end, caught the fishing right under. Basically, when you stand in a swim and look into the margin, inside your line of vision, so closer to the bank. Even when you think you're looking in the margin, closer. You're
looking inside your, yeah.
You're looking past them. You're looking just past your feet, and you used to see them swim past there. And I started to bait a spot. I'd lost the fish the previous November. Lost it late November. Got stuck in a snag. I actually had hold of it for 20 odd minutes in this snag, and I couldn't get it. I couldn't unsnag it, and my hook link snapped in the end, and it disappeared. But the following May, I started again in I think April sort of time. I fished through. Caught quite a few fish real close, so I was getting them in the end. We used to get them out the edges, but like I say, as soon as my mate Gav had said to me, they like it real close. I really think about my fishing, always have done. And some people just clock a fish that close in and they don't really think about it again. Whereas I took full advantage of that information he'd given me, and from then on everything was based around it. But the spot I caught it from in the end was right in front of the boards, and I used to bait it all the time on the way home from work. And I got these branches out of the bushes behind me, and I cut all the branches off. I put them in the margin, and I'd sit them in the water, and I was looking at which twigs went under the water. Anything that went under the water, I trimmed it off, and then I put it back. So when I baited my spot, I'd have these twigs over the top of it, so that no one would even think to fish there, and also it stopped the birds diving. And I used to drop my bait in through these 3 branches sort of thing that I'd laid on top of each other.
How often do you think it was coming in there?
Quite regularly,
yeah.
I reckon. It liked that area, it liked that bush. I knew it used that back bank, they all did. It wasn't a massive lake, and it liked that bush. It spent a lot of time in the Carp bush, wasn't very catchable there, never really got caught there. Has done over the years, or did after. But
a lot of other fish visiting that spot?
Yeah, lots of fish in the lake.
Visiting that spot?
Yeah, they would have been.
Yeah.
I never stood there and watched them too madly. I knew they would be. I didn't need to look. I knew where you'd see them sitting in the bush next to it, and they're coming up that margin. I'd watched the spot growing, But I went there that afternoon after work. Used to always stop in after work, and I remember I was stood there. I put some bait in, and I looked out, and I'm sure I see it drift past out in front, not close to my spot, 3 rod lengths out. And I went home that night, and I was sitting in bed, and it was 11 o'clock at night. I was in my flat with my mate Ryan. I'd gone to bed. I was laying in my bed, and I just thought to myself, you have to go to the lake. So I did. Got all my gear in the van, 11:30 at night, went down to the lake, set up, blah, blah, blah. And then that's when my mate texted me. I was laying in my bed. And your whole rod is like, my rod tip was inside the bank. Because there was hardly any room, my rod was like next to my bed, and the tip was, it's a 12-foot rod basically in a very small swim. And I can't have the rod poking past the boards because my rig is so close to the boards. But yeah, he texted me to say, have fun catching your shitters or wherever. I locked my phone, put it under my head, and then my rod churned. And after the most savage battle, I landed the fish. And
you want to get him to tax you that more often, don't you?
Yeah. But that carp that was a lot. It was just, we didn't know how big it was going to be. I didn't really know what it would look like, and no one really did. And that was a special capture for me. And it's, and that's a carp that, of all the carp I've caught from my area, that will always be one that I kind of class as like, all them people that fished for it after that was kind of because of when I caught it.
Right.
And that's just like it's just a nice...
Still around now?
No, it's dead, unfortunately.
Right,
yeah.
right. I was going to say, actually, while we're talking about that with observation and stuff, what have you observed by watching carp at close quarters in the margins? that has been useful for you to remember?
How easy they can be to catch and how hard they can be to catch.
What about how aware they are of your presence?
Very. Like like this year I bought one of them ghillie suit things where you like the leaf suits, look like a right knob walking around.
Do they work?
It didn't work for me because what I actually realised was I bowled up to these fish thinking they ain't going to see me, but I had a brown ghillie suit on and everything's bright green. So I wore this suit and I soon sacked it off because I'm just a big brown object amongst green, so I stand out just as much as if I didn't have it on. If it was a luminous green, I reckon they wouldn't see me. But some lakes, they don't seem to care. The more pressured the lake is, the more wary they are of you. Faces, eyes, glasses, that's what I think scares them. Animals know by eyes, don't they?
They do. Their peripheral vision, they seem to be better if you're above them. If you're a certain height above them, you can get right on top of them.
Light
They got no awareness.
Makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
I've sat there watching fish for an hour and a half before. You get a glint of sunlight where the sun breaks through the clouds. It lights the whole spot up, and they all swim straight out and don't come back. But sometimes I've had times where you've been clumsy and they don't go. I've had times where you're so desperate not to spook them and you still do. They're very, very aware of you. They know when you're up the trees as well, I think. It's not just when you're stood there over there.
Yeah.
Derek Ritchie said it to me when I was a kid. Stop climbing them trees all the time. They know you're up there. And the amount of times I've watched fish, and I've said this to people since because I paid attention to it afterwards. You put a rig in the edge, you climb up a tree. You can see very clearly down to where the lake is because there's nothing in between you and there. So really, if you were to sit on the floor and look up at you, you can see you very clearly. You watch these fish coming in, they're swimming round a rig, and you think, why are you not eating it? They want to eat it. You can see that they want to feed. They're constantly coming back to it, but they won't feed.
You think they can see directly right up?
100%. No, you don't. I don't know if they can see you, but they know something's out of place. And for a fact. I remember I've seen it several times myself. I've said it to my friends ever since. I remember filming with Daryl in Belgium once. Same thing. He put this rod in, and he was stood in the tree watching, and this fish just kept coming back. It wasn't spooking off of him, and I doubt it could even really see him that well. But it did see him, and as soon as he got out of the tree, 5 minutes later, wallop, he catches it. They're far more aware.
That's interesting, isn't it?
Sometimes.
And sometimes it can be conditional, can't it, on the day and the conditions for sure, and the mood that they're in. I mean, you can stand in the water with a pair of chest waders in, and they will just come swimming straight past you some days. And if you had a rig down there, you'd catch them.
It's pressure. It's the pressure they're under normally, I think.
I've noticed being above them. I remember on the on one lake where if the bank was very, very high, and if you stood very, very high, they would come through the margins, happy as Larry. But as soon as you walked down onto the lower section of the bank, that was it, and that was just consistent all the time.
I think feeding and swimming are very different as well. Getting carp to feed when you're stood there, or getting them to swim.
So they can look like they're comfortable with you being there.
I feel like if they're going, they might not they might sit there, but they're no good to you sitting there. And I think from what I've seen, to get them to feed, they know that they're having to drop their guard. Like when they're sat there, you might think they're just sat there doing nothing. They're not. They're looking about. They're conscious of what's going on. The minute they've got to feed, I feel like their mind is then on, well, whilst I'm feeding, it's instinct for them, I think, to be cautious of what's happening around them. And if you want to get them to eat on a spot while you're stood there, it can be a lot harder than just to get them to be on the spot while you're stood there.
It's interesting. I've seen them doing that before. We've seen them doing it quite a lot over the years, but I remember some sessions where you were watching a lot of fish feeding in the margins, and they're ravenous, but you keep creeping back and keep looking, and then creeping back, and then you keep doing that, and you think, I should have had a bite by now. And then when you think, right, okay, I'm just going to leave them to it, and camp right back and just leave them, try and go to sleep or whatever, and leave them to it. Then the rod goes off. It's like
because they know, mate.
They do.
I'm adamant they know. I know they know. They know, and it's the biggest thing now. I always tell myself: once you've put the rod in, just don't. Basically,
it's so tempting.
When you put a rod on a spot, you get particularly on a margin spot, right? As soon as you put that rig on the spot, you go to look at your spot. That can either do one of two things. There's either no carp there, and you can't spook them because they're not there, so it doesn't matter. and that trip check-in was wasted anyway. Well, there is carp there, and you can spook them. There is no, like, once it's in, you can only do harm. You can't really do any good by keep checking it. Sometimes you're in a position where you're able to hide yourself well enough to watch, because the more you can watch them feeding in that in the edge, the better. The easier they become to catch. If you might see yourself get done, it happens, you know, and if you can watch it, great. But some spots, there's no easy way of getting to them, and every time you check, you're far more likely to do yourself harm. And I've learnt that if you can, just put the rig on the spot where it needs to be. If you're placing it by hand, nothing can go wrong. Let them do their thing. Because I've spooked fish loads of times, mate, because I'm too keen.
Too keen.
We all want to watch them get hooked.
Yep.
But we'd all rather not see them get hooked and actually hook them than try to see them get hooked and then spook them off. And I've done it many, many times. Enough now that I don't make the mistake too often.
But you'd think with that as well, I mean, the biggest thing to throw a fish off guard is actually the presence of a rig actually in the water in the first place. You know,
I think it's easier to hide a rig than yourself. Like, it depends, you know. Edges aren't meant, carp are wary when they feed, but a lot of places the margins don't get too bad, so they're edgy because they're in the margin. But when they're in the margin, I think they're a bit more worried about what is stood on the margin that could potentially do them harm than they are what is beneath them, you know. Like, a lot of spots I'll fish in the edge will be spots where they probably don't get caught very often at all. So they're not worried about a rig, they're worried about me going to stand and look at them. And
in that case, I mean, they're the easy. I mean, it's the easiest way to catch fish potentially as well, isn't it?
I've always said
you can do everything
yes.
properly, and you've got most anglers don't necessarily fish over. I'd say most anglers, probably the biggest fault is people not fishing over bait properly, not presenting their rigs properly, just getting a rig over bait. And I mean, in the margins, you can fish 100%, can't you?
I think I've always said to myself, if I can find them in the edge, I will always be able to catch them. One way or another, maybe not straight away, but like if they're there regularly in a margin and you can get to them, you know, if you find them in a snag every day where you can't fish near them safely, then you're not going to catch them. But if you can find carp, or certainly if I can find carp somewhere and I can get a rig to where I feel it needs to be, you'll always catch them because everything's there in front of you to see. You know, you can place everything so perfectly. Things don't tangle. Bait doesn't go everywhere. And one thing I have learnt is how long it can take to get bite over like 5 or 6 crushed tigers. I've seen fish feed on that for ages, but then I'll go out in the lake and I'll spot 5 key of crushed tigers out and catch one in half hour. It's weird, but you do learn things.
You do. You can watch big groups of fish feeding in the margins, and you think you should be getting bites regularly all the time, and then all of a sudden there's that dinner bell as well that goes off for whatever reason, you know. And you certainly don't see that on the lake, do you?
And things go wrong as well. I've had rigs hooked under like little tiny little roots, and I've watched them clean everything out of the spot, and you're not going to reel it in while that's happening, and eventually they're gone, and you just think, what on earth has happened? And then you go down to the water an hour later when nothing's come back or whatever, and your hook is under a tree root that's in the ground. So they probably sucked your bait 50 times. Your hook can't even move. It's basically glued to the floor, you know. And the chance of catching special carp has gone out the window, you know. But that's why it's fun, isn't it? You know, you reel in from in the lake, you just go, I didn't catch anything. And I went doing the underwater DVD and that sort of thing, and fishing in the edge, it makes you realise that just because you didn't catch anything that night, it doesn't mean you didn't have loads of fish. Like, every night that you've ever blanked, you could have been cleaned out by 50 carp. Well, 5 carp could have cleaned you out. Every single night you've ever blanked out in the lake, it could have happened. Probably didn't, obviously, but the nice thing about the edges is that you've got such a...
Yeah.
It's much easier to see what's going on.
It's telling you what's going on.
And it's exciting and it's fun, and it gives you something to work on. If you do get cleaned out in the edge, you might change something. Whereas if you blank a night out in the lake, and you'd been cleaned out, you wouldn't change anything probably. You just cast it back out there, assuming they weren't there.
And it can help you develop when you're fishing, you know, in open water as well,
100%.
can't it? When you know that stuff.
100%.
So how did the Korda thing come about for you then, mate?
Okay, so I have a good story. I don't even think I've ever told Neil Spooner this, so...
I love it.
Neil Spooner? Apologies. So I was fishing a lake called Lakelands, a lake down the road from... lake in the area that I grew up carp fishing in. I was 17, I think, at the time, 17 or 18, doing my hardest not to go to college. I dropped out of college 2 or 3 times. I'd not had a job at this point, and I don't know why, but my mum and dad kind of just funded me to fish. Like, I didn't need a lot of food. Do you know what I mean? So basically, rather than me starving, they did give me money for food, and I was all right. And I was fishing this lake called Lakelands. I was there all the time. And my first encounter with Spooner was him catching a carp that I'd been trying to catch off one of my baited areas up the top end of the lake. So I'm like, straight away, you know, he's on the enemy list. Like,
yeah.
He wasn't, you know, you can't hate Spooner. He's a lovely guy.
Yeah.
So that was my first encounter with Spooner. Anyway, after I sort of got to know him a little bit, I thought to myself, do you know what? I've obviously found out he works at Korda, and I'm thinking, right, this is Kushti. This is a good, like, this is a good guy. We'll forget about the fact he's caught that fish. Maybe he can, like, get me a job at working for Korda, which, as you can imagine, for me in that stage of my life was an absolute dream opportunity. So anyway, I've tapped him up one day. I said, can you have a word with Korda for me, see if I can get a job in a warehouse? I just wanted to, like, pack boxes or anything really. Like, just, I didn't want to do anything more than 3 days a week. I wanted a part-time job that I could just go there, get some cheap hooks, leads, whatever. That's what I wanted. That is just what I wanted. Didn't want nothing more than that. I just wanted that. So anyway, so I said to Spoons, can you ask about this job? He said to me, he said, yeah, actually, I think Dovey's looking for a little helper in, I say a little helper, Dovey was only young at the time anyway. Dovey is about my age, a year older than me, so he would have been 19 or something, and he was looking for someone to help him in product development, do a bit of customer service. Another funny story.
Oh, yeah?
I'm not the best for that customer service, but anyway,
what's that?
I'm just not. I'll talk about that in a bit. So they said, yeah, I'll have a word with Dovey. I think they're looking for someone in product development. So I'm thinking, oh, wicked, like that's even better. Do you know, it's like, it sounds like actually the work it would be good fun. So anyway, he said he'd do that, and it's time's going by and not heard nothing. And then he's asked me, like, he's a couple of times. I don't know if I'd done it before. I'd asked him this. I think I might have done it for him once, but before he went home, he'd be like, can you put this bait out for me by the island? And I didn't want to fish really by this island anyway. It's always full of little ones, a lot of fish. And I was like, all right, so I think I'd done it. And then it got to the point where he's giving me this bait when he goes home, and I'm thinking, I ain't heard nothing back from Spooner. He's told me he's going to get me this job. Haven't heard nothing. It's been a few weeks. All I'm doing is putting this bait in for him, right? So I stopped putting the bait in, and I used to put it in my freezer. So he used to give it to me, right? And I used to take it home. And I thought to myself, until I hear something back about this job, I'm not putting no more bait in for him. And I got to the point, I thought, he's taking the piss out of me, like he's just lied. And then one day I've got this like stockpile of bait in my freezer, and Spooner's come down. He's like, it's all like friendly, and I've got, like interviews all sorted and that, it's on the thingy. So
bait starts going back in.
So I put the whole lot in one go. Just put it all in for him. Yeah, so sorry, Spoons, but that's how that was my in. You know, people always say that. How did you get your recorder? And that was it. It was just like, I met Spooner and I asked him. If you don't ask, you don't get. And I just asked him.
I mean, did you think I'm going to change? I'm going to be a company man from now onwards and just fit the mould?
Nah, I didn't. I remember turning up. I remember John Mann, lovely guy. You know, I've known John a very long time, early days. He said, I'll never forget when you turned up, because I opened the door for you and you just walked straight through it and didn't even say thank you. I don't remember that. I think he's lying. But I don't really remember starting at Korda. I remember it weren't that smooth. I remember I think it was Dan's first impressions of me. I think it was our first time we'd ever really spent together, and he weren't happy with me. Like, he was a bit like, you know.
Well, did he say something to you?
Not to me, but to someone else. I know he did, because I was a runner basically. So we had gone on a shoot, and I'm the one. I was like, "Can you get this out of the van? Can you get that out of the van?" And that's not a bit like, that ain't a bit of me, you know. So I didn't want to do it. Every time I was asked to do something, I didn't want to do it. I wanted to do something like, I don't know what I wanted to do, but I didn't want to be doing them sort of things, you know. Everyone has to do that at some point, but.
So did they find you? I mean, did you make yourself quite difficult to work with?
100%, yeah, really difficult to work with, you know. And
so why do you think they stayed and stuck with you? Because
I think they knew in their hearts that I loved fishing, and I think they knew in their heart that I loved, or certainly had the potential to love something within that business, and offer something to them. End of the day, if I hadn't have done my job well, they would have just got rid of me, you know. They got to that point, I would have just been gone. But they knew I loved photography. They knew, I think they could tell from the work that I did that I when I was working, I was trying hard. It was the bits.
So, but you weren't working as a photographer to start off with. You were the runner and the...
Yeah. So to start with, I was like Dovey's helper. So I'd gone on that shoot as Dan's helper sort of thing. But I was Dovey's little helper. I used to do the customer service.
Yeah.
I can say this now, to be fair. But basically, so I didn't like doing customer service because to me it's quite boring. Yeah, I don't want to, like, I'm not the sort of person, like you said before, I'm quite a creative person. There's nothing creative about every day having to reply to people that are moaning about stuff. Like, things go wrong in fishing tackle. Like, when you sell the amount of stuff that Korda sell, like, things break. A baiting needle's going to break every now and then. It's a tiny little bit of wire. You're going to break it. Like, but some people, if they break their baiting needle, they go mental about it. They don't just go, oh, I broke my baiting needle. They're like, Korda stuff's shit. This is the worst baiting needle ever. It ain't. Like, you just broke it, you know. And I was the one on the receiving end of all this thing. So it worked really for me. People moaning they've only caught 12 fish on one hook and then it's gone blunt. It's like, come on, mate. Do you know what I mean? Like, one fish on a hook is acceptable. Like 12, can you really kick off that bad? So I didn't really want to do it. I didn't like it. I shouldn't say it, but I got to the point where if the emails built up every now and then, I just delete all of them. Right, so I'm called as Damo will hate me, and Dan probably. Like, it was never loads and loads of emails, but like there might be 30, and I just used to get to the point, and I just used to delete the whole inbox.
Well, right? It's gone.
Yeah, and I thought if they're that bothered, they have message back. You know? It's so bad, and I'm sorry, Dan.
So did they have a message back?
They never knew that. No, sometimes people did.
Right.
And I'd be like, oh my God, sorry, must not have reached it.
Right.
But it was very rare.
He's a convincing actor as well, isn't he?
It's so bad, isn't it? It's so bad. Because I didn't like it, you know, and I was a kid, and I used to do, you know, I just used to, people I worked with in my ear would be like, mate, come on, you can't. But I'd never had a job before. I'd gone from basically being at school doing whatever I like, going out with mates doing whatever we like, going fishing all the time, to then I'm working in a building, like a proper building, you know, and with a real job.
But your parents must have been chuffed. He's found
well glad that I
a
got
sensible
a job.
company to go and work for.
Of course they was. But, you know, I tried my hardest most of the time, you know, and the product development, in the end, I was doing half product development.
So you went from sales.
No, customer service. So basically, Dovey started as a junior. He would be replying to the messages and helping design the products. And that's kind of what I did the same, helping with the design of some products, which I loved. Really did love, you know, because it meant like, it was just to do with fishing, you know. And at that age, I wasn't taking things for granted as such.
Were there many people working for the company at the time?
Yeah, quite a few. 35, 40,
right.
Probably 40 odd, I reckon. I was late all the time. I used to work in an office. It was me, Dan, Damo, Pennin, and Dovey, and I was late every day, like pretty much every
So how did you end up starting at the company, not really knowing anybody, and then working in an office with that lot straight
Because
on?
I was Dovey's little right-hand man.
Right. I mean, you sort of went straight in at the sort of deep end there, didn't you?
So I was in if you were going to be late every day, I was in the worst possible
totally.
office I was in the worst.
I'm surprised you lasted a week.
Day. And it was probably something to do with the fact that they were the ones seeing me be late every day that made it harder for them to get rid of me for it or whatever, because if it was coming from someone else, like, you know, but they saw your character. I think they were around me, so I wasn't just like, oh, Elliott keeps being late. That's all they heard. They did see the other side to me. I might have been late, but take that 10, 15 minutes every morning out of the equation. I did actually. I didn't delete. What I said about is deleting these emails. This weren't all the time, you know. Like, I'd done it a few times over a long period of time.
Right. Okay.
But it weren't a regular thing, you know. And for the most part, I always tried to do the very best that I could, you know. But particularly when it was something that was of interest to me, you know, I could sit there test line all day and I didn't find it boring. You know, I could sit there and look at the coating of a braid all day and I didn't find it boring. I could look at swivels all day, it weren't boring. But Gary from Bolton wants to moan at me about the barb on his thing ain't big enough, then I'm immediately like, oh, you know. And eventually they got rid of that side of it for me, and someone else done that job, and you know, they do it fantastically, and I'm sure they've never deleted any emails. I'm sure,
no. And so what were you working with? Were you working part-time straight away? Or
yeah, part-time.
You managed to work, 3 days a week?
Yeah. And I think probably because, you know, at the time, the email side of things wasn't that massive. You know, you look at Korda now, I bet they get thousands of emails every day because everyone's has email. 10 years ago, email weren't like It weren't just like, oh, I'll email Korda. You got a lot of letters, things like that. You know, so it wasn't as easy to just email Korda. Therefore, the role wasn't as intense. And that's why I stepped away from it in the end, was because A, I didn't really want to do that side of it, but B, it started to take up more time. And you get to the point where actually I can't do this job as well as it needs to be done. Right. I don't want to do it as well as it needs to be done. What,
it was affecting fishing time?
No, the time I've got,
right.
You know, if I've got 3 days to work for Korda, it got to a point where that job, A, I didn't want to really be doing it.
Yep.
And B, like 3 days of working at Korda, that would take the whole 3 days up. Then I couldn't do my product development. And they were the things I was better off in. You know, I was better suited to those roles.
But you were the only person it sounds like you're the only person that came into the company and managed to negotiate a 3-day week.
That's just what I said from the start, you know, and I did 9, 9 years later, whatever it was, I did end up going back down to 3 days. The thing I always do is just be honest with people, like, and I guess it will pay. It like I think honesty is, and it's cost me at times because sometimes I'm honest, and it's, you know, people, they don't always like it, but it's very hard to, you know, react badly to someone who is honest with you. It's much easier. You know, I think people feel better if you're just upfront with them and honest. And from my word go, even in my interview, I'm pretty sure I said I don't want to do a whole-time job, you know.
What do you think the company gained from having you here?
I've sprayed nearly a whole can of air freshener into my mouth before and survived. They got to see that.
Why did you do that?
No reason, not sure. Just did it. It just became like a bit of a trick. We had good laughs, you know, like if I was in the office, I did my job, but we had good laughs, you know, and I don't want to sit here and say, oh, I made Korda fun to work at, but I think I was quite a laugh to work around, you know. And I did try really hard, you know, when I started on the magazines, because eventually I pushed out of, I think me and Dubby were separated, like at school, you know, you're not allowed to sit near each other. I got moved downstairs so that we weren't sitting next to each other because we was disruptive, and, you know, it was like being back at school again. But I got moved down into the sales department, and I had to sit facing the window, and then I got moved out of sales in the end into this glass room at the bottom with these 3 glass doors, and I was just locked in there. You couldn't even hear from the outside, and I was just in this room on my own at the bottom of another room. That's where I ended up, and then I went into the marketing department.
As a videographer? Cameraman.
So I learned, like I said, about this picture I gave you. You know, I'd liked photography. I had a DSLR, and Jimmy Armstrong, Richard Stewart. Well, actually, Jimmy Armstrong, to start with, was doing it on his own. Rich started about a year after me, a year after I joined. But Jimmy had already been there and was a magazine man, the cameraman. And I'd done some stuff with him in front of the camera, not behind it. And in the end, I said, I want to do that, you know, because I was out on the bank. I was fishing, you know. I weren't like, I loved product development, don't be wrong. But again, once you've tested swivels 50 times, it does get boring, you know. Whereas being able to change and go into the photography at the time, out on the bank with people all the time, that was a right bit of me, you know, outside, not cooped up indoors, because I don't want to work indoors all the time. No matter
did you know before you joined the company that you could be a good photographer? No. And that was something that sort of developed while you were here?
Yeah, I used to like taking pictures. And again, I just was honest always. I want to do that. You know, a lot of people, they'll go to a job and if they're not happy, they don't say nothing. If they want to change their role, they won't say nothing. Like, I'm just not one of them people. You know, I will always say it. If they say no, you're just going to end up doing exactly the same as you would have done if you had never asked. So you may as well ask. If you don't ask, you don't get. And I asked to go into that role. They said I could do it, and I tried really hard at it, you know. And I think if you employ 10 people, one does this role, one does that role, you know, they've all got their roles, but they all would rather do a role that the other person's doing, your business will never run as well as if they were all honest and said, I want to do what he's doing, he wants to do what I'm doing, switch them all round, let them all do what they want to do. Your business is going to work 10 times better than it is with 10 people just doing a role because they have to. And
of course,
I wanted to do what Jimmy was doing, and they let me do it. And I love them for that, you know, because I was, you know, I probably didn't deserve any like chances at anything, you know. Really, the bad probably outweighed the good at several times, and I will never, you know, I'll never lose sight of how good they were to me, you know. But I like to always think that I gave it back in my work in the end. You know, give
Yeah.
me the chance, and I would respond in the right way.
I think you did. You did set some new trends, though, didn't you? In the way magazine articles and everything are presented as well, didn't you? Do you want to just talk a little bit about that?
It was adding like a. There was always, if you step into something, there's always certain ways of doing things. There's only a certain amount of angling photographers. They all have their own way of doing something, and obviously back then there wasn't loads of people doing it. So if you look through a mag, you had certain styles from certain people. As soon as I started doing it, I wanted to do my own style. I remember I had this big thing about not using my flash. I didn't want to use a flash, right? I wanted everything to be like real natural light. I learned eventually that you do need flash, and I used to use my flash all the time, but I wanted things to be like, nitty gritty and look a certain way, look artistic all the time, and look like, hate to use the word, look carpy, yeah?
That's coming up again.
When you're shooting articles for Total Carp magazine, carpy is not it ain't got to be that. It's got to be in your face, it's got to be lively, it's got to be excited, colourful, vibrant, fish right down the lens, and I learnt that over the years, that certain things have their place in certain places, but little things like the macro stuff, like the close-up stuff of how to tie a rig, it was always shot over plain white background or shot over the packaging in which the products came. As soon as if you're showing someone a fine detail of something happening over a white background, white just looks a bit crap. It's dead, and it's like lifeless. If you're doing it over a packet, you're then drawn to the packet. It's confusing. If you just shoot it nicely over the grass or the clothes they're wearing, it sounds silly with a slightly lower depth of field. It just looks nicer. And as soon as I'm doing anything, I want to. If I'm told to do it one way and I think it looks better another way, I will try to have that. I try to have my impact, and the mags was no different. I was with very good photographers in Rich and Jimmy. And they, between us, we were always trying to make things look as good as they could.
And the company were quite supportive towards,
Yeah, because it looked better.
Yeah.
You couldn't argue it. You couldn't compare the two and say no, it doesn't look better. It did look better, and they've always been very good. Like, I think they trust you well to do your role. Damo, Dan, Ali, like they trusted us to do that job. They weren't in our ear every day. They weren't on our case all the time. Every now and then, what's going on, but they trust you every day to do your job, and they trust you to do it well. And we were people that wanted to do it well. We didn't want to do our job badly, therefore we didn't.
Right.
And that was all. That was taking pictures and change. And you see it years later on. That became the trend in the mags. Everything was shot in the way we were shooting stuff, and they look better. They did.
Yeah, it's definitely it's changed direction a little bit, hasn't it, over there? I remember with you, I think your first real sort of public Korda appearance for me was on Korda Underwater 8, when you were drafted in, weren't you? So because they were kind of went through mixed emotions on that session, didn't they? They started off at a bit of a struggle. They caught a few, and then did you know that you were going to be asked to come in and appear on that?
No.
What happened there?
I'm just being me, like supposed to be there to help, and I'm sat there like, do this, do that, being like probably overstepping.
So you were on that shoot for the entire session?
No, I don't know about the whole thing. I was there for a fair bit of it.
Right.
I think I was doing pictures, but they weren't catching nothing to start with. So I'm just in the hut. Why don't you do this? Not in the hut, in the tent. Why don't you do that? But it got to a point where I think they'd had a few by this point. And Dan always had this big thing. Dan is very much about rigs. Like Dan, we all have things what we love in our fishing. Dan loves to he loves to tweak rigs and all stuff like that. And he's always done that. And when people ever say, I've heard people say things about Dan, oh, he's just trying to sell tackle. I swear to God, he's not. Anything Dan says to someone, no matter what you may think, he's only saying that because he believes it to be true, And his big thing has always been about rigs, and he's built a terminal tackle company off the back of that love for hiding tackle and all that. So Dan's big thing was, when I say big thing, one of Dan's opinions was that you wouldn't catch like on a pop-up over gravel, you wouldn't catch in clear water, close to the bank, shallow water on a pop-up. I don't know how he ended up casting it out, but I imagine I just kept rattling on in his ear about it, and in the end, he just to shut me up. He probably said, "Go on, then, we'll do it." And it probably would, partly for him, he would like to have seen it, and in the back of my mind, he wanted to prove me wrong. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I think it was a bit like, "Go on, then, put it out there. I'll prove you wrong, and we'll take it off." Whatever.
Right.
I've always had an opinion, and I've used it in my fishing loads of times, that pop-ups catch bigger carp. You will catch small carp on them, no doubt about that. Pop-ups catch bigger carp. You know, a pop-up is far more alien to a smaller fish than it is a bigger fish. They notice the fact it's off the bottom far easier when they're small. Just like you would, if something's tall and you're 3 years old, it's a lot taller than something tall when you're 20 years old, isn't it? Because you're bigger yourself. No different there. And he's put this rig out, and they were ignoring it and ignoring it and ignoring it, again and again and again.
For how long?
For ages, hours, about 35
They were fishing
times.
a swim.
Yeah, about 35 times it got ignored. They come right up to it, turn away at the last second. But I'd seen this in the past. I'd done it on lakes myself, fishing for bigger carp with lots of little carp, and I put boilie crumb in the edge on a real shallow spot, and I put this pop-up on there, 2-inch pop-up. The fish come in, small fish, they start feeding for ages and ages, and it gets to the point you can barely even see what's going on. You put in more bait in, and in the end you've got 15 carp there. You get a take, you catch the biggest one that was there. And that's because it took him that long. He weren't there to start with, but that rig will stay there. And those little fish, they're just ignoring it. They're not even spooking off it. They're just not eating it. 29-pounder turns up, and they just eat it. And it's kind of the same thing what happened there. These fish were coming in and, constantly and just turning away. They weren't just ignoring it. They wanted it, and then they refused it because they knew something was wrong. These were like 20-pounders, mid-20s. And
the pressure was on then.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, oh, shit, like, come on, something. By the end of it, I was like, anything, just eat it. Because I was adamant it would get a big one, I said we'll get a big one on it. And Dan said to me, he was like, I think he went, you've got 3 minutes left. That's it. 3 more minutes, done. That's it. Right. And anyway, I think he went out. He's with me a lot of the time watching, and he'd gone. He got up. He's like, you've got 3 minutes left. It's coming in. See you later. Because they're wasting time. The days are valuable and the captures are valuable. And they could have caught another, 35 times it's been ignored. It was a lot of times. And they're missing bites. The whole time they're not, they're... And then, he's gone out the tent. Sure enough, cut a long story short, in come the big common wallop, just took it in one go. Came straight onto the spot, just nailed it, and then that was it, done. And Dan caught the big common, 41 pounds.
And what was the response after that?
It was funny. I remember he was like...
Is that a pay rise?
Yeah, no, not quite. But he looked at me, and I remember him with the net, and he was just like... I can't remember what he said to me, but I remember the moment quite clearly. Like, sounds like a bit of a contradiction. I don't remember what he said, but I remember it the moment clear. I remember the face. And I'm sure he just looked at me, just like, he was surprised, and it was cool. It was a good moment. I was glad that someone had finally eaten it, just so happened to be a big one, which was wicked.
Glad. You must have been strutting around for that. Was that pretty much the end of the shoot, was it, that one?
Yeah, towards the end.
Because you'd already caught the big plated.
Yeah, he caught the big plated earlier.
Yeah.
He caught that before I was there, I think.
Yeah.
I'd come and gone.
Yeah.
It was good, it was wicked,
That sealed that
and he
DVD.
cast over I think he cast over the camera on the next bite.
Did he?
Yeah, because Dan was always striving for more. He was like fuming after that.
Right, was he?
He's angry.
Had Dan never used that rig before
He
then?
cast over the camera, not that. But yeah, he cast over. I think when he put his rod back out, he went straight over the camera. And we were all buzzing, and all of a sudden he's like, because he don't want to waste enough. Dan now is thinking,
it's
yes,
reset. It's reset, isn't it? As soon as you've done that, it's right. Move on to the next.
Especially for Dan. Like he's like next now. All them carp that he hasn't caught because they'd all refused that rig.
Yeah.
Obviously, he was buzzing with that big common, but he straight away, it's in his nature. He wants to catch more. But I remember him casting over the camera, and it being quite funny. But.
Yeah, that was so leaving the company, was that how was that felt from everyone else? Were they upset to see you go?
Yeah, and I was upset to go. But I'd been there a long time. I changed my role quite a few times, and for the last few years I was working there, last 3 years probably, we'd gone into the video. That was a big, it was a big thing. We got into the video. Korda were, I'm going to say they were the first people to be doing videos. They probably was. There's been a few, obviously, isn't there? But carp fishing companies producing video content with any form of regularity, intent and meaning, they were the first to do it. And me, Jimmy, Rich, we had progressed out of the magazine stuff into that. We still had to keep an element of it going. Ali, being Ali, was very much of the opinion that things were going far more in the way of the internet videos, and look how right he was. He couldn't have been more right. But that meant that our time spent on the mags was, some magazines they stopped producing articles for, pulled out advertising out of and stuff like that, so that we could concentrate our efforts more on video. And that's what we did. The job we were doing day to day, going out and taking pictures of people making articles, that slowly turned into going out every day, filming people making videos. And
Just
again,
pull the mic up.
oh sorry,
Yeah.
and again, I loved it. We were doing these videos, and it was a whole new lease of life. Anything you've done for ages, if you can give a new something to it, and that's what this was. It was it was a chance to make pictures really exciting again, like the first time you used it when I shot an article. You're doing these videos, but the thing for me was, after a while of doing it, it was very demanding time wise. We should spend a lot of time away, and that got to me a bit because I wanted to fish still. Nothing in my life is ever as important as my fishing. When it comes to my, I don't want anything to stop.
Do you always sacrifice money over fishing then?
I do sacrifice most things. I never feel like I'm sacrificing something, because I never really let it get to that. Soon as something is stopping me from being able to go fishing, it will soon change. I've never been in a position where I've had to just sacrifice something in order to go fishing again. So I've never let it get to that stage. I've always nipped it in the bud before. But this was starting to, we spent weeks abroad a lot. I think one week I did like 10 weeks abroad or something. And I've got a missus. I had a missus since I was 21, If you want to go fishing and you've just been away for a week, you can't go fishing for 3 days the next week, really. And if you go fishing every other week from the start of May, you lost your whole summer, And that weren't for me. And I ended up going down to 3 days a week again. So I went back. I went back to I had the conversation with them, and I said, look, I'm not happy, I want to go back, and that's what I did. So I was making videos 3 days a week.
Did they know you were unhappy, or?
I did say, you sound like an arsehole if you say I'm unhappy, because there's people that would die to have done the job that I've done. But again, I've always been honest, I wasn't unhappy, but I just sensed that I wasn't as happy as I was, because videoing is time consuming, especially if you're going abroad. But they let me go down to 3 days a week, so I was doing my normal job 3 days, and the other 2 days I was fishing, but I had to do a video diary. That's how my video diary began. I started doing that, which was really well received. I had to do a certain amount of magazine articles. I had to write a certain amount of web articles. So although I wasn't technically working those 2 days, I still had things in place that I had to do during that time. So I was working, but I weren't working, I weren't quite as just do whatever I want for 2 days.
Right.
But I had a pretty good deal, I did have a good deal. But it got to the point, and the reason I left was, Korda are a fishing tackle company, and essentially they've got all these products coming out all the time. They've got to market them. Video marketing is how it's done. Their marketing staff, their cameramen, what are our jobs going to be? To market these products, yeah? That's what we had to do. And we didn't just buy this, buy that, there's nicer ways of doing it. But I got to the point where I thought, do you know what? There's a gap in this market where the only fishing videos you ever see, as great as they are, will always have a bit of a buy this in it. There'll always be a point where you cut away from the fishing to the point where they're just talking you through the rig or showing you the bait. And I knew that there was a market out there for just fishing videos that were just about fishing, nothing else. Not about tell them about the bait if it's relevant, but never deviate from the story of what's going on to specifically look at that bait. The instructional side of things, not to be as important. Like the nitty gritty bits, yes, but to lose any form of what feels like you're being sold to. I thought there was a market out there for that, and that's what Cypography was based upon. Just fishing in its purest form, no advertising.
So it was Bivvy TV at the time.
Carp TV.
Sorry,
so it's Carp.
Why don't I get Bivvy TV? Yeah,
Carp
TV. So
Carp TV.
Was it the fact that that you knew the business was available, that you could purchase that?
So Rich, who I work with now, he'd left Korda a bit before me to go freelance. He'd done some freelance for them. Now, Nick, who owns Carp TV, he wasn't a angler. He wasn't an angler. And I'd been talking to Rich for a while, right, and some of my closer friends, about maybe leaving Korda to start my own business, doing these kind of videos, yeah. Carp TV were obviously the only people that were doing it. They were the only paid for video content. Any other carp fishing videos were either a DVD via Korda that you might buy or whatever, but no one was doing monthly content that was paid for. It would always be the Korda videos or the Fox videos. But the reason with every Korda video that you got, or Fox video, or whatever it was, you get the video for free, but kind of your payment for watching that video and getting it for free is that you have to watch the bits of advertising amongst it. No one can moan about that, can they? You know, you're getting all this video for free, and the effort that went into some of them projects, you know, there was a lot, you know, so that's how it was. But yeah, Carp TV existed, and Richard basically done some work for him, and he said to me, I get the feeling Nick doesn't really want to do it anymore. And sure enough, you know, I spoke to Nick, and that was the case.
Right.
That was the case. He didn't, you know, he wasn't an angler. He wanted to do other stuff with a charity and whatnot.
Did you watch much of that?
No, I don't know.
Did you know much about Carp TV?
I've been on it a couple of times.
Right,
Been on it a couple of times.
Yeah.
So yeah, I knew what it was all about.
Was it a good business at the time?
You'd grown every year.
Had it? I remember subscribing to that, actually, watching a few of those.
It grown every year, and that was further, you know, that was obviously further confirmed my thoughts that there was something in it.
Did you feel like you needed to format that very much? Reformat?
We changed it a lot, really. But like I said, I would have done anything that I'd kind of, you know, anything I would ever do, I'd always end up changing it one way or another. We kept the format largely the same in a way. Kept a lot of the little snippety type bits that Joe Morgan had come up with. That all stayed the same. Yeah. So.
What about the people that you were who were working on Carp TV at the time? Did they continue with you?
No. So Joe, it's always it's a subject I don't really like to talk about that much, because people say, and I do, in a way I feel bad for Joe, because Joe was one of my real good mates, and I haven't really ever spoke to this about anyone, but leave it in. I went to Nick and I asked him about buying this business. Yeah. He said he would wanted to get rid of it, and I think I definitely said it to Joe in the end. I can't remember if I said it. I think I said it to Nick as well. Obviously, I worked out that from how much it earned, how much he wanted to sell it to me for, that basically, if I wanted to do it, I wasn't going to be able to keep Joe on. Right? That was that. So I had said to Nick, I said, if Joe wants to buy it off you himself and do it or whatever, then I'm out. And kind of gave that opportunity, if you know what I mean, to Joe to take it on for himself. But he couldn't have done it, I suppose, because he didn't have he couldn't edit, he didn't have the cameraman skills and whatever. And it was like, Nick wanted rid of it, and basically, because I had said to him, do you want to sell it and that? When I then said to him, if Joe wants it, then I'm out, you know, because I didn't want to rob Joe of it, you know, because he was one of my good mates, he still is. I didn't want to just take it from him, because I wouldn't have liked it if it was that way around. But Nick then said to me, well, I spoke to my wife, and, you know, we've thought about it, and if you don't want it and Joe doesn't want it, then we're going to just sell it to someone else. So I didn't go into it with Joe. He ended up ringing me and saying someone's trying to buy a Carp TV. Do I want to go in with it? And I'm like, then I've got to say, that's me. So that was really that was an awkward conversation, you know, because I was the person that was trying to buy it. But, you know, for the money I had to pay for it, the kit I had to buy, and the money it was earning at the time, I couldn't afford to pay Joe, you know, because I was going to be the presenter. You know, it just weren't going to work. And I think, I don't know what happened in the end with Joe and Nick, but Joe chose not to buy it for whatever reason, and I bought it from Nick.
Right.
And then I just changed the face of it.
It took you very long to change it over, and that transition period, I can't remember now.
No, straight away, really.
Yeah.
Straight away. It was all pretty instant, you know.
Changed the guest format a little bit because you had bigger
change some things. Like I say,
interviews.
we kept some of the stuff. So basically, like Joe was the presenter. I think Joe used to do about 4 days a month for them. He didn't do a lot. He got paid quite well because he was a big part of it, but he didn't do a great deal of stuff. So that was the biggest problem for me. Was like I can't be the presenter and an editor and the cameraman and pay you a wage that's even worth like entertaining for you. You know, I didn't have a role for Joe, but at the same time, Joe's input on the thing, you know, he's largely what it was. You know, so we didn't want to just go in there. Joe wasn't going to be on it anymore. But we didn't want to just go in there and be like, it's totally different because these people have, you know, they've bought it for X amount of time because of the way Joe presented it, because of the ideas Joe had for the sections in between. But at the same time, we had loads of ideas and ways of doing things that we wanted to change. And that's what we did. You know, no advertising in there, nothing like that. Just fishing.
You wanted to keep Rich Stewart with you?
Yeah, so Rich was freelance at the time. He's now a business partner of mine. I got to the point where I thought, you know what, he's properly my right hand man. You know, he's like the person I ring. Thinking of doing this. Do you reckon I should say that? Absolutely not. Do not say that, El. I'm going to leave this bit in. Should we leave that bit in the film? Absolutely not, El. Don't, because this will
Toby's
happen.
my man.
That's what I do with you, Si, isn't it?
Yeah.
You need to have that, and especially me. You know, you need to have that. And yeah, you know, as I've sort of alluded to, I'm a person that needs someone to. Although I think I know what I'm on about, and I think I'm right all the time, I'm not. You know, and I've learnt that.
It's maturity, isn't it?
And Rich is like, you know, Rich is a good cameraman. He can edit. He's a good mate of mine, very good mate. You know, and it's come a long way from that early. I never knew what would happen. You know, all I knew is I took out a massive loan. I'd left my job at Korda for 10 years, and like the figures as it was at the start weren't like, you know, I think I was if it stayed how it was, I was earning less money than I was at Korda. If the figures if we hadn't grown it at all, I was earning less money than I was at Korda, and I had a big loan to pay, and I'd lost all my job security, I'd lost everything, you know. So it was a strange old time, but people loved what we did. You know, we'd done the video, and everyone seemed to love it, and really we've never had any bad feedback. A couple of things, but we're 26 episodes deep now. You know, we produce between sort of 2.5 to this latest episode's 4 hours long. Produce a lot of content every month, and it's on a monthly basis we're doing this, you know, so there's room for things to go wrong. Most people produce 4-hour video, be done over 6 months, you know, or whatever. We're doing it every month, and we've never had anything bad said, but we've never really given anyone anything to moan about. We just go fishing with people. We get them to tell us why they love carp fishing. Hopefully they catch a carp while they're doing it. What can you moan about, you know?
How do you film it? So, so if you're bringing out one next month, so you'll be doing fishing sessions this month in preparation for that. So everything is kind of done around the period that it's going to come out, or do you stockpile videos?
It had been. So initially when it first began, I didn't even fish for 3 months, which shows you the magnitude of what, you know, I didn't fish for 3 months because I couldn't. When I left Korda, I remember a couple of days before I left, I was fishing the North Met, and I thought to myself, I can't even really edit. I don't even really know how to edit a video, and I'm leaving. Like my notice is handed in, I've got 3 days left, and I just thought, I do know how to edit, but not on this scale. And I remember shitting myself, and I went to bed that night thinking, oh my God, you know, what have I done? And it was kind of like that for the first, you know, things took me a long time. I put every single second of I was in my office every day, every night. People used to ring me all the time, you know, what you doing? And they knew before they'd even rung. I was in my office. It's not like that anymore, you know. It's taken us. We're now at a point after 26 episodes. It's probably been this way since about 2 years, 24 episodes in, where we've actually got footage stockpiled. But before that, mate, it was literally from the start of the month to the end of the month.
A lot of pressure.
I used to finish it on the last day and start it on the first day, and it was like that every month. But now it's not. You know, you grow into it, you learn how it is, and I've now got several videos in the bank, sort of ready to go, and the pressure's it's off at the moment. But the minute you don't go out and film for a month, you're back where you was before.
That's right. What are the best bits of it so far for you?
I'm proud that we have made videos that did exactly what I wanted them to do in the start. I'm proud we've achieved the goal that we set out to achieve, if that makes sense. We wanted to do something that hadn't really been done, and we've done it, and everyone's liked it. I'm proud of that. You know, and that's become quite a common thing now. You see loads of fishing videos now that don't have the selling of products in them, and that just goes to show you don't need to have that to sell something. If you can sell someone an idea or a reason to go fishing, they'll buy the tackle off the back of it and all that. So I'm proud of that. I don't know. I've never sat there and thought, you know, what am I proud?
Learning about
that's what I'm
learning
proud
about
of. People liked it.
Yeah,
that's what I'm proud of. It's just that they liked it, you know, and that I ain't had to.
But doing this sort of thing as well, Elliott, you just get to learn more about, like we were saying with Chris at the start. You know, you just learn more about people as well, don't you? You know, you've got different segments, but you learn so much more about someone. It's not just.
And I tell you, that's one thing, right? So I thought we would do an interview called For the Record, and back when we did that had never. I don't think it'd ever been done. So they'd never seen, like, say, one of the first ones we did. I don't know who the first one was. I think it was Fairbrass, maybe the first one. Can't remember who the first one was. Anyway, they've never seen that side. Like what we're doing now, people are listening to me talking about what I do outside of fishing or whatever. They'd never seen that back then. So we were doing these interviews with people, and when you do it with Dan, it's all well and good. Like, people like them and they hear more about Dan. But when you ask me what I'm proud of, we've done interviews with people that no one would know about, or probably would end up knowing about if we hadn't done it. Someone like Jamie Smith, you know, most people didn't have a clue who he was. Some people did, but I'm proud when I look back at that film and think we've got him being him in his own home.
Have you been surprised at the reception that those people get as well? No, because if I didn't think they would get a good reception, I wouldn't have filmed it with them. Does that make sense? So kind of no. Jamie Smith's quite a niche angler, isn't he? Yeah. So you're kind of.
But he's a great person.
Right.
He's got so much about him. You know, if you just look at the fishing, what fish has he caught, you might not be that interested. But talk to him for an hour. Like me and Rich went home from his house on the phone. Oh my God, how good was that? It was brilliant. Can't wait, you know. And it's nice to document those people. Like, it's taken a leap of faith there, though, that the listeners or the watchers, the viewers, will, even though they don't recognise the name, that they will still tune in and watch. Some people said they don't. You know, we've had some people where they're just like, I remember some people with Daryl's interview, they were just like, don't want to hear about it. All they want to know is, I remember one bloke come up to me at a carp show and he went, I don't want to see swans. I want to see more rigs. And I was like, what? And he was like, we just always filming like swans and that. I just want to see rigs. And I just said to him, mate, if that's what you want to see, go to YouTube, you know. Like, because it's true. If you want to see rigs, just go to YouTube, mate. Like, we want to film the swans and the sun coming up and if we can, make a beautiful film, you know. And you can't please everybody. You just want to create a nice balance, don't you? Yeah, it's just like, there's more to fishing than what a lot of people realise. And I've got an opportunity to, because I can put whatever I want on there, you know. I could put us lot running around naked on it if I wanted to. No one's going to stop me doing it. If everyone liked it, great. But I can put whatever I want on that, and that's really nice. You know, it's nice to have the opportunity to kind of, I wonder if they'll like this, rather than saying, Ali, I've had this idea. I reckon this might be good, and him going, no, I don't think it would be a good idea, and then not being able to do it. I can just go, let's try it. It suits you, doesn't it? It does suit me, person. Down to the ground. We were saying as well, Elliott, about what fishing means to people as well. I mean, because you're obviously a very passionate angler. And we got some pictures of a guy. Monkey Head, this is.
Is it Monkey Head?
Well, his name's Logan, but I call him Monkey Head.
I think it personifies carp fishing a little bit, doesn't it? That, you know, for some people, what it actually, what it means to them.
Yes.
I'm going to say, can I ask why you call him Monkey Head?
So I've always took the piss out of him, but he's from a place called Monkwick, and he looks a little bit. I think he looks a little bit like a cheeky monkey when he laughs.
He's not going to come after us, is he?
No, don't worry about him. He looks a bit like a cheeky monkey, and when he told me he's from Monkwick, I just called him Monkey Head. So that's stuck, and that's what I now call him, or Monkey. Sometimes Monkey for short, or Monkey Head for long. But yeah, you know,
he caught a very big. He caught a very big common.
And that's what the picture is. I'm sure Toby will put it
got
up.
it here. There it is.
I wanted to, so kind of going back to what people say, you know, my opinions on carp and this and all that. And if you really, really care about something, I feel like you are entitled to have an opinion. Everyone don't have to agree with it. And with my age, I've learnt to know when to and how to say something. But that picture there is, to me, the perfect image of what carp fishing can mean to some people. You might not be able to see it there, but in pursuit of that fish, he had not only spent a long time on the lake. We always joke about how long it took him, actually, but you know, plenty of time, lots of disappointments, lots of good times. But he broke up with his missus he'd been with for a few years because of trying to catch that fish. You know, him never being there and all that. That's largely why they broke up. And they broke up 2 days before he caught it, you know, and then he caught it. So it's kind of like, if he'd have just caught it
a couple of days earlier,
then maybe you never know.
Right.
You know, he's got a new missus now and it's all good. But that picture there, he'd cried when he caught that fish, and he said to me on the phone, "I feel like crying," and I just said, "Just cry then, mate. You know, let it out." And that's what he done, and he cried, and I went down there and took his pictures, and you could see it in his eyes.
Absolutely.
Maybe not on the podcast, but if you look, you know, I like to think people can see it. He'd probably hate me for showing that, but he cried because fishing meant so much to him that he had sacrificed things that most carp anglers would never. There's levels of carp angler, and I don't just mean ability. I'm on about how much does it mean to you? And the more it means to you, the more outspoken you're going to be about it, and the more you're going to care when other people's opinions, who maybe aren't as obsessed with it. We were saying as well about integrity as well with fishing. You've been put in we both have actually. Yours is probably a little bit more on a larger scale than mine, but you know, the integrity that comes with fishing and etiquette as well. You were after a big fish for a while, weren't you? And you caught it. Yeah. So yeah, it was one of the biggest moments I've ever had in my fishing. Not the foul hooking of it, the death of it, but this carp I'd fished for 4 years on and off. It's a long story, so I'm not going to go into the real in-depth, like everything, because once you get me started, I don't stop. You know, I'll tell you piece by piece from the word go.
How long have we got, Tobe?
But yeah,
we're doing fine.
You know, this was a fish that no one really knew about. When I first laid eyes on it, it was just a club lake common that got caught 5-6 times a year, and I just thought one day I'm just going to catch that carp. I'd done my digging, come out 2 or 3 times a year, sometimes more, from the same swims, same tactics, boilies out in the lake. Eventually I got my ticket. You know, like I said to you before, I wanted to sort of work my way through all the lakes in my area, personal goal. Got my ticket, started fishing it in January one year. Fished through till March, and I'd caught 2 fish by then. And there was meant to be like 120 carp in there. And I remember getting to March. It shut in March, it was always annoying, but it shut in March. I remember thinking, I ain't really seen a lot. And there ain't been a lot out. There'd been like 5 fish out since January or whatever. It's quite busy. Anyway, it shut for the close season. And I spent the close season baiting up. I cut a hole in the fence. I used to go in there and bait up this swim. I was putting 10 key out quite regularly. Because I'm thinking there's loads in there, yeah? Baited up, come back to the close season, come back to the start, come out like 14th in the draw, got my swim. Couldn't believe it. Last I was in the draw, second from last, got me swim. Fished my swim, didn't catch nothing. And from then I realised something was up. And to cut a very long story short, a lot of the fish had escaped during the flood from the year before. The bailiffs were all adamant nothing had gone, but they had gone, and the lake had changed massively. I found out that the carp that always got caught out in the middle of the lake, the big carp that I was trying to catch, common, always got caught out in the middle of the lake. Since that flood, it was the first fish that got caught as it reopened, out in the middle of the lake from one of the swims it always got caught from. And after that, It did 3 captures that year, all in the very far corner of the lake, out the margin. And it never got caught out the margin, and it never really got caught out that swim. So the day it opened after flooding, it got caught where it always did. 3 captures again that year, wasn't unheard of to do 4 in a year. Were all out of one tiny little swim where it never really got fished for, never really got caught from. And then after that, it just became one of the weirdest, the hardest targetable fish I've ever seen or heard of, really. Considering the lake it was in a 5-acre lake, 13, 14 foot deep on average, no features out in the lake, gravel seams but no real raises, and bushes around the edge of the lake. So they were either in the bushes or they were out in the lake, swimming around. Did a couple of floater captures, but the 4 years I fished there, it only got caught twice off the bottom. And it got caught, so it did floater captures, I think 2, and 2 captures off the bottom. One of them, James Wilsmer, he'd literally lowered his rig. I think he'd seen the fish feed on a spot. He'd got his rod, he'd crept into this bush, he had the rod poking over his shoulder, and he lowered his rig down onto the spot. And he's lowered it in, and as he's still holding his line, the fish has come in, picked his bait up, hooked itself straight away. He's got the rod over his shoulder, he's got the line in his hands. And he's just put it in, right? And he's like, what do I do? You can see his lead hanging off its lip. It's hooked. You can see its lead. And he struck with his hand, and he caught the fish, 46 pound. It's growing all the time, right? There was only about 35 carp in there at this point, so they'd lost 90 fish. And it was hard going on there, very hard. He caught it, then 10 days later, I'd been fishing at Yateley during this period, and I'd pulled off of there, and I came back onto the lake. I baited up real heavily in this corner swim, but all over the swim, because I thought, hang on a minute, it's been caught up that end this year. Maybe it's like changed its end. And then my mate Chris, I was meant to go down there that morning. My missus was crying. Don't remember why she was crying, but I stayed with her that morning. He moved down to where I'd baited, didn't have a clue, cast a white popper out at a showing fish. Before he even got his bobbin on, he caught this fish, 47 pounds. So he's done 2 captures in that point, about 3 years. Off the bottom, and a busy club lake, 2 captures, and they were both literally within 30 seconds of the.
Wow, sorry, that fish before the other fish went missing. Then it was just it didn't stand out at all. It was just
it's always been a bit of a weird looking carp, but it just got caught.
It's funny how the hierarchy changes.
Yeah, he was always the biggest fish. There was always the biggest fish in there. It was just a carp I had no doubt in my mind I would catch within 1 season. Because it got caught and I knew how to catch it, you know. It got caught in the day, always out in the middle of the lake, really, and always over boilies. And if you know all that and it gets caught 5-6 times a year, how hard can it be to catch? You just wait your turn. Every day you spend in a wrong swim, you probably won't catch it. But it had such a pattern, and that all changed after it flooded. Completely went on its head. The other fish got caught, but it didn't. And after a sort of it's about 3 years, 2.5, 3 years of trying to catch that carp. I'd caught the other fish, caught all the other carp pretty much that were in there, some of them more than once. I started to catch a lot of fish on zig rigs. No one was doing it over there really, and that's how I started to get them. Because like I say, they were either in the snags or they were out in the lake. If they were in the snags, yes, you could catch them in the edge. But because of the depth, as soon as they left those snags, they were over 10, 12 foot. There were no bars, there were no weed beds, and they just used to swim around the lake. So zig rigs, adjustable zig rigs, was a good way of getting them. And it was my first trip back. It opened that year. Like I say, there was a closed season from March till May. I didn't fish May because I just never had this. I just always said it won't come out in May. The others get clubbed in May, but it won't come out. It won't be that silly to get caught. It was my first trip back in June, and there was something in me. I've had these feelings over the years. I was so confident. Like I was ringing people up. I'm back. It's happened. You know. I've done the night. I was off my rod, so in the morning I've gone for a bit of a wander. So but before I went, I changed the depth on one of my zigs by a couple of foot. Anyway, I was off my rods, and as I walked back to my swim, I've just heard, and the rod I'd adjusted had gone. Played this fish for about 10 minutes. It hadn't been out for, by this point, about a year and a bit. Anyway, yeah, played this fish, landed the fish after the most savage battle. It came across the front of my swim. I saw it surface, and it had a wart on its tail. The wart was gin clear at the time. Wasn't often like that, but the algae used to drop in and out, and it was gin clear, and it had this wart on its tail. And as it swam past me, I saw this wart on its tail, and I was like, "Oh, that's a good fish. Oh my God, it's got a wart like the big one has." I didn't know there was 2 in here with a wart, so I knew the stock, mate. Like, I knew every carp from £10 all the way up. I knew what they all was. And I thought, I didn't know there was 2 in here with a wart, like, because I thought 30-pounder. And as it's like come past me kiting, there's a big set of snags to my right that overhang the lake. And it went round to the snags and just started going. And I thought, there's not one that looks like the big one. That is the big one, you know. Like, but it's on an adjustable zig. And by the time I'd even sort of started to think about clamping down on it, it's in the trees, it's in the snags, it's gone past them. And I'm thinking, oh, maybe it's not the big one. Telling myself it wasn't, you know. And as I'm pulling it back, it's grating. And I was just waiting all the time for it to lock up, because the snags, they were proper snags, you know. And I thought it's just going to get to a point and it's going to be stalemate. The fish ain't going to budge anymore and it's just going to lock up. And I remember having so much pressure on this carp. Bear in mind, I got a £10 zig hook link on, thinking, something's got to break here. But I could feel this grating the whole time, and it never stopped coming. But the weight, it felt like it was snagged, but it never stopped moving. And it was then that I started to think, oh, like, if this is coming, this is the bigger, like. And I got him out from the snags, and then I had another 10 minutes under the rod tip, and it's crystal clear, and I can see this carp looking massive, you know. Last capture was £48 or something, off the top. My mate Gav, who got me into fishing, I'm sure that was his one before that. And yeah, I landed it. I was on my own, you know, best moment of my life. But I almost knew that something was wrong, even though I felt relief as it went into the net. I almost knew something was wrong, so I didn't see the hook in its mouth. I looked into the net, and sure enough, like I say, the water's crystal clear, where there is a picture of it.
Yeah, let me check the picture up.
Yeah.
And there was my zig in its peck, you know. I never foul hooked another carp out there on a zig. No one else did either.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah.
That's one of the worst sights you're ever likely to see, isn't it?
Mate, that will live with me. Nothing has ever happened to me. That's probably the worst thing that's ever happened to me. I've been quite lucky in my life. I've never really had anything that bad happen to me. That is probably the worst thing. Well, the fact the carp died.
A couple of pictures of that.
You know.
That's another story afterwards, actually.
That's probably the worst thing that's ever happened. And
so what goes through your head when you see that?
If I'll tell you the honest truth.
Yes.
I was on my own. My other mate was there, but right up the other end of the lake. And I saw that, and I looked at it, and it shocks me now even to say that I thought this, but I thought to myself, should I just take it out and count it? Should I just count it? You know, and then as soon as I asked myself that in my head, shall I just count it? My brain immediately says, no, you can't. You know, why would you? You know, you can't. Because
you've got to live with it.
Yeah, it's no good. Lots of people would have. You know, I'm sure of that. There's a lot of people that would have just whipped that hook out of its peck, carried on like nothing ever happened. You know, and we weighed that fish. We didn't sit there and mess around with it as if we caught it, but I wanted to put it back in the water via a sling. So before we got it out, we said, you know, hadn't been out for a while. It's big last time. We'll weigh it. And it was hovering between 49.15, £50 too, you know, of
£50
proper English common carp. The hardest. And when that fish died, well, eventually it died.
Do you want to tell the story?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah. So that's happened. So, you know, horrible. I went home after that, you know, and I returned. I don't remember when I returned. I think that was 2015. So yes, it was. That was 2015. It died in 2016. And when that happened, it was about a year it hadn't been out for. Yeah. When it eventually died, I used to look around that lake all the time. I used to see a lot of the fish. All the fish, in fact. You know, I saw them all from time to time. At some point, I see everything in that lake, and they did stock it in the end. But all the original stock, I see them all at some point in the water. Some of them more than others. And that fish, I only ever saw it sort of 3 or 4 times in all the time I was there, and I did a lot, you know. But I never really used to see it out in the lake either. Some of the trees you get quite a good look. I don't really know why, but I didn't see it very often at all. However it managed to evade me, it just did. And the same for everybody else. It's almost like it lived out in the middle of the lake, just sat over the deep water doing nothing. But it got to the point, when did it die? I think it was in the summer. I started to see this fish, and the first time I saw it, right at the top end of the lake, there was a little inflow of water that comes in from the river, and it's about 2 foot wide at max. This tiny little stream's about 6 foot wide. It thins up into a tiny little channel like that, and then it runs into the lake over the space of about 8 foot. And I was stood in the outer bounds where you're not allowed to stand one morning, looking down onto this little gravel shelf where I used to quite often see fish, and I've just heard this splashing come from behind me. And I've sort of looked round. As I've looked round to my left, I've seen this carp on its side in this depth of water, like this, thrashing along this tiny little stream, and then out into the lake, where it should have been. And at the time, it sounds silly, but there was another real fat common in there. That's a very boxy carp, that big one. But I didn't know which one it was. 'Cause it was before, as soon as I saw it, it was gone again. But for some reason, this carp had swum into almost no water, into this tiny little stream inlet thing that I've never seen any life in at all. And it was weird. It baffled me, but I didn't think a lot of it. I just thought carp do odd things sometimes. Over the next few weeks, I saw the fish, I'm sure I see it something like 9 times in 11 walks round. Over the next 14 days, walked the lake 11 times, and I saw it 9 times. Sometimes I saw it, and it'd be there for hours in the same place. I remember one day it was just parked up against the bank. Just parked there, doing nothing. Just
upright and everything.
Yeah, fine.
But
Looked mint. I even had it feeding. During that 2 weeks, I had it feeding on a spot. I caught a fish around the same time. It was a couple of years uncaught. Fish called One Eye. One of my favourite captures I've ever had. I was feeding it like 2 more pellets for like 6 hours. It was on my spot feeding, and I was constantly flicking these in. And eventually, I caught him. But the big one had fed on that spot the day before. And it looked fine. To look at, there was nothing wrong with it. But after a while, this is the first 4 or 5 days, the times I'd seen it. After it got to a point, I thought, hang on a minute, it's just not right, And I started to think something was wrong. But to look at, everything looked fine. I started to think I was going to catch it. So I kept seeing it, mixed emotions, but in the back of my head, knew something was wrong. Anyway, one day, I used to basically go there every day on the way home from work. It was on my route home, pretty much. Missus used to go mad at me for it, but I've always done it. Go in, just have a walk round in case I see it. If you see it, you've always got your gear in the car. If you see it, fish for it. If you don't, just go home as normal. Trickle a bit of bait in as you do as well. One day I've got to the lake, turned up at the gate. I remember getting out of my car, there were 2 cars. The first thing you do whenever you get to a lake is how many people is in the car park. Looked up the car park, there's 2 cars, both red, right up the end of the car park. Quite a long car park it was. These 2 red cars. Right, 2 people here. Got out of my car, went to go through the gate, tried to undo the padlock, and whoever had locked it last had put the chain round in a way and locked it to a part of the gate that you couldn't get the padlock round so that I could actually see it from my side of the gate. So I'm like, I'm trying to work out how to get over the fence, right? As I'm trying to work out how I'm going to get over this fence, because it's tall, probably 12 foot tall, barbed wire over the top of it, not meant to, stop people getting in. I've heard a cheer go out, like, away, like. But there was 2 match lakes, one either side of the road, right near this lake. So I thought, it sounded like a carp angler, It sounded like the victory shout of a carp angler. But I only heard it faintly. My car was running in the background. Anyway, so I sort of shrugged it off. Whatever, need to get in the lake. So I've climbed over the fence. As I'm climbing over the gate, through the barbed wire and all that at the top, as I've got down the other side, my phone's gone dling in my pocket, message. Didn't look at my phone, just unlocked the gate, got in my car, drove up the track, at the car park. As I'm driving up the car park, looked at my phone to text me, and it was a bloke called Ben Harvey Murray, who used to work at Korda, worked for Guru. He hadn't worked for Guru for quite a long time. I want to throw a year into the mix, might be a bit less than that, a long time, and I hadn't spoke to him since he'd left. We were mates, but not on we didn't talk to each other outside of work. Randomly, he's texted me saying, "Hello, mate, how did you ever get that common news after?" And And I'm kind of superstitious, so I'm thinking, what? Why are you messaging me that? Like randomly out of the blue. And then something in my heart just told me something was wrong now. Too much had happened in the last 3 minutes. And my next job was to look for these anglers. Where are these? There's these 2 cars here. Where are these anglers? Where are they? So I'm walking up the side of the lake, and it's pretty much a square. So as you walk up one bank, you can see who's on the other bank. I've neared the end of the long bank, and I thought, I haven't seen anybody on that bank, which pretty much leaves 3 swims. And there was one swim in particular I'd been fishing every single time I was there, because it was the only swim I'd ever seen that carp in the edge. And I thought, if I fish it enough, I'll get my opportunity, you know. And I said a minute ago that I'd had it feeding not long before. I'd caught that one eye fish, you know. I was right in the mix for it, and I knew that, so I fished there every time. During the period I'd been seeing this carp, when I said I'd seen it too many times for my own liking, you know, there was a guy that started fishing there, and he looked like a good angler, and because of that, I just didn't speak to him. Whenever I see him, I just ducked him a bivvy or whatever, and he done the same. We didn't talk to each other. We both
You're intimidated?
No, we just gave each other the
respect.
The kind of mutual respect. Don't ask me what I've seen, and I ain't going to ask you what I've seen. I don't want to tell you what I've seen. You don't want to tell me what you've seen. Let's not ask. Let's just not go there, you know. And for me, I'm thinking, you know, I got a bit like that on there. Not rude. I was never rude to anybody, but I was in deep, and it meant a lot to me. I didn't have conversations I didn't have to have, you know. Would never blank somebody, but if I saw someone walking around, I would sit in my bivvy, you know. If they come and spoke to me, I'd speak to them. Anyway, I've got to the top of this bank. I didn't even know what car he had, right? Got to the top of the bank and realised there's only 3 swims left that this angler could be in. And I'm not sort of thinking he's definitely caught the fish. I'm just thinking, he's fishing in one, probably fishing in the swim I want to fish, because it was half popular swim. As I've walked around the corner, I'm now looking down the path up to where this swim was. And at the top of the path, as soon as I come around the corner, I see him. And he's got this, I just see this tail of a fish. He's got his back to me, and I see the tail out the side. And as I'm walking closer, I knew what it was.
He's got it.
It could have been any fish, but I knew what it was. And as I got closer, I see the head out of the other side, and you know, walked into the swim. And he's got this fish in his hands. He just looked up at me, and he just went, "Sorry, mate." You know, because he knew I'd been in there all the time. But it ain't my swim. We weren't mates. We didn't talk to each other. He saw his opportunity and he caught the fish. So we took the pictures of the fish. I asked him how big it was, and he said, I think it was 47 pounds. And I was really surprised by that. It's a male, you see.
Would it be bigger than that?
A male, it shouldn't have been that big. It should have got, if it was 50 pound when I hooked it, 2 years previous or whatever it was by this point. Hadn't been caught since, so I hooked it. No, sorry, about 18 months later it was, but it'd been 2 years since it'd been caught properly. I thought it should have been bigger, and anyway, as I'm looking at it, I just saw on its tail, like, have you ever seen a little dead perch or something in the margin? You notice that their fins rot, and they're almost paintbrush-like at the end, spiky, but the fins have rotted. I noticed its tail fin was like that, and on its peck and stuff, which was obviously really worrying, because that shouldn't happen to an alive animal, you know. Rotting like that is a real... I spoke to Simon Scott about it, and he said it's kind of like a human. Your fingers and toes go first, you know, same as a carp. Anyway, so he's had his pictures, he's put it back, and it didn't go back well at all. Like, it wouldn't swim off and all that. And I'm thinking, this is not good, you know. So it swam off anyway, and I asked him, I said, where did you catch it? Like, how did you catch the fish? Because I see he didn't have no gear in the swim, really. And he said, it was down by the reeds, like, just sitting there, and I just saw it, grabbed a mixer, lowered it onto it, and I just thought, it's not right, you know. I asked him if did it fight? He said no. It just sort of powered off for a rod length, gave up, come straight in the net. He didn't know. He just saw the fish there, fished for it like anybody would, but I knew that something was wrong. It shouldn't have been caught like that. It just wouldn't have been caught like that. And I said to him when he let it go, because obviously it didn't swim off well, and he was panicked, you know, and you could tell he was a very passionate carp angler. He had tattoos of Clarissa Walker's record and that all on his back, you know, proper, you know. And I said to him after he'd let it go, I said, I'm going to tell you this now because I think that fish is going to die soon. And if it dies, I want you to know that whatever people say, like, I'll vouch for you that you didn't do anything while that carp was on the bank. You didn't do anything untoward, and you are no way responsible for the fact it was dying, you know. It was already going to die. I hoped it wouldn't die, obviously. But I went on holiday about a week or so later, and the day I got there, I found out it was dead.
Mm.
And that was 4 years of my life, on and off. On and off. I didn't fish there solid for 4 years, but that was the most obsessed I've ever been. I've never fished for a carp for so long as that. I never wanted to catch it so badly. And you got to remember, I'd caught everything in that lake time and time again. You know, I'd had 70 odd captures out of there. And
you said as well, did it finish the guy that was that
apparently,
caught that
I
as
don't
well?
know. Apparently, he gave up fishing. You know, I don't know if that's true. I hope to God it isn't true. I really do hope it's not true. But I've never seen him since, and I've never seen him before, so I don't know. But people have said to me that he gave up fishing after that,
Right?
which would be a shame. You know, would be a real shame. But it made me change my look on fishing. You know, I tried to promise myself I'd never get that obsessed by something ever again. I am now that obsessed again with a fish, so it's gone out the window. But it's made you realise, you know, like it don't always end in what you want it to end in. And I'd never suffered that. I'd never had a fish die that I was trying to catch. Not really trying to catch. You know, I'd had fish that I dabbled for that had gone, but that was a carp that I wanted. That doesn't matter what I catch for the rest of my life. That hole will never be filled. That never doesn't. I don't care what I catch. That carp, that period in my life, that there was something about that, and I'll never ever be able to accept that I didn't catch it, and it kills me even now to talk about it. You know, I hate it. I don't like talking about it. And
it's bittersweet, isn't it? That's for sure. Well,
bitter.
Bittersweet. Maybe not the word. Mate, one thing before we finish, actually, I just going back onto technical stuff a little bit. I know we're swinging backwards and forwards from things. I know you were talking about on Yateley. We don't want to get into the car part too much because we have talked quite a lot about that. But you've hooked fish on bare hooks, which is really interesting, isn't it?
So I'd done that because I went there at the start of the season one year. And the fish were getting Arthur was the carp I wanted to catch. Arthur had been seen in a swim called the Snags. My mate Josh Green, he'd been in there. The car park's one of them swims, one in, one out. You know, so it's not like some lakes where if your mate has one out of a swim, you don't go in there. It's like you go where you got to go. You know. Josh had one. I think someone else might have had one. Josh had one. Josh also lost one. And then I went in there, I don't know if it was like a few days later or whatever, and got cleaned out my first night. Then I got cleaned out again on my second night. It's 48-hour rule, I think, at the time, so I'd done 2 nights. But I got cleaned out both times. And I'm thinking, no, you don't want to be getting cleaned out on there, you know. If you know it's carp, like, to feel that close to what could be Arthur, the carp I wanted most, and anything really out of there, you just, like, I have to do something, you know. And I've never really been one to like change my rigs. It's not something I really do. Just like because I got cleaned out, just changing my rigs. Don't really do that. But I thought, do you know what? I'm gonna. And I've caught well on like the Magaliner over the years, so I've got no issue with. I don't care if I got a bait on the end or not. The reason you have a bait on the end is to make them suck your hook in. If you can do that another way, then sweet. So I decided to fish exactly how it was, big inline lead. But on the hook, I just had a piece of shrink tube, like I always fish, you know, like centimetre shrink tube coming off the eye, linered. And then on the shank of the hook, I had a real tiny bit of foam, and I just cut the foam down. So it just covered just like a little, almost like the shrink tube did, but just sort of sheathed the hook. And I soaked that in Scent from Hell liquid, stinks like mad. And I used to scald pellet round the hook, and I'd lower this, basically climb into the tree, walk my line along the bank, climb into the tree, climb out onto this branch, lower this 5-ounce lead down with this little lump of paste, and then drag it all into position next to these 2 big stones. Mad Martin always said to me, fish next to the big stones, and he battered the carp fish out the edge. And like I said to you earlier, if you tell me something and I feel like I'm listening, yeah? Like if you're going to tell me, so I listened to him, fish next to the big stones. So that's what I used to do. And obviously having the paste around the hook enabled me to tweak it into position without burying my hook point. That would dissolve within 15 minutes, and I'd just have basically dust and then this hook. And then I used to tip a McDonald's cup of particle, crushed nuts, a few maggots, white maggots to look like what I had on the shank. Tip them out the tree, straight down onto the lead, and then just cover my, basically what was essentially a piece of braid with a hook on it and a tiny little sliver of foam, just to kind of take a bit of the weight of the hook away. And I caught using that.
Interesting.
Yeah,
it's
so
interesting.
Weird, but
I've heard. I know a guy that caught heather doing exactly the same thing as that, and he says, "Well, why would you give them anything to be able to eject if they're taking a hook back into the mouth?
just straight back. Yeah.
There's nothing. They've got no inertia to get the hook back out. It just takes a bit of confidence to fish with no bait on the hook whatsoever.
But if you know, if you can.
But you could do that with PVA bag fishing.
You could
solid bag fishing and stuff
all day long. The fear is if you're doing it out in the lake, it could get eaten by roach or whatever, and all of a sudden, then you've just got a hook. If it's in the edge like that, and I've never done it anywhere since.
Maybe put a kicker on there or something,
You know,
a coloured kicker, and just to
work,
say you've got some
anything.
colour on there.
If your bait's accurate enough, they're sucking it in. They're sucking anything. If there's a rig amongst it, that's how we catch it.
I still think if you had a bare hook with, like a red, yellow kicker line on the bottom, they would still take it.
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely no doubt about it. And there wasn't really, it was nothing magical about what I was doing there. Catching, I caught a fish.
Well, it's probably different now.
And I also got cleaned out as well.
Well, do you want to say that as well? Because you were from observations, you were never cleaned out with the rig left there, were you?
So basically, the baby orange was a carp I always felt like I should have caught. I'm pretty sure I lost it. My first ever bite from a carp up. Almost certain I lost it, and it used to get caught on a boilie, that fish. Even when, they all got caught on boilies over the years, but there were periods where that was 99% of the bites were on tigers and things like that, and then that fish you would get caught on a boilie, and it cleaned me out a few times in the edge. I can think of a few occasions where it done me. But up in the same swim, I'd caught a fish, I'd lost a fish, I'd gone home, and then the following week I came back, and as I came back to the lake, I'm there to catch Arthur. That was my dream. It's my favourite carp that's been alive. Yeah. So I come back to the lake, and there was a guy. He knew where I was going. He knew I was going in that swim. I think I'd fished it my last 4 nights in a row or whatever. Baited it when I left. And as I'm walking up the carp, they call it the carp bank. It's in between that separates the pads and all that. I'm walking up there. There's a guy, and he looked at me through the trees, and he was looking at me really weird. I sort of clocked him as I walked past, and I was like, what are you looking at? And he was like, you're having it. Basically, he'd seen Arthur on the spot that day, and I'm thinking, I'm having it. I'm going to catch Arthur tonight. I'd been cleaned out the week before by something. I didn't know what it was, but I'd caught the night before.
So was this using just a bare hook?
Just on that bare hook, yeah. I'd been cleaned out, but I didn't know what by. Anyway, Arthur's obviously been on the spot. He's seen it that day. Didn't go in there. Basically left me to it. Fair play to him. I've set up in a swim, put my rod out, and I knew in my head that night, I knew as I went to bed that something was happening. And I've had, like I say, I've mentioned it a few times in this podcast. Every now and then I get these feelings of absolute certainty, no doubt, to the point where you just start ringing people and telling people. Damo said it in his podcast, yeah? I've had the same things. Not that often. You can't choose when you have them, but it's happened. And the same thing happened that night. I went to bed and I was thinking, I'm going to catch Arthur. I'm going to catch Arthur. In the morning, I had a take. I got cut off almost straight away as soon as I picked the rod up. It wasn't even a violent take. It was a slow, considering I'm fishing with a rod length for line out, tip's gone round. I picked the rod up and it just sprung back. No tension, just just so easy. And I'm thinking, what? How? Because I said Josh had been cut off the other couple of weeks before. And this spot's been fished for years, every day, for years. And if cut-offs happened like that, it wouldn't be fished like that. Something would have been done. And I stewed on it for an hour. I was gutted. I knew in my heart really what I'd lost. And I was convinced it was Arthur. And I sat in my bivvy for ages. And then in the end, I was like, I need to work out what's happened. Because I knew that it hadn't just... Line doesn't just break. I'm looking down the shelf and I've seen this little object pointing up towards me. And it just looked a little bit straight or something to be a twig. I thought, that's not a twig. I got in the water with my landing net, and eventually, from right down the shelf, I managed to get this huge iron bar, about 4 foot long, covered in rust, curled into like a big C shape. And I used to fish with such massive bits of putty up my line. I'm convinced that as the fish scooted down the shelf, it just
hooked it up.
Cut me on that, you know.
Never going to land that fish, will you?
Nah, you know, and it was gone. And that fish got caught about 6 weeks later, and all of its side of its mouth was sore where it had been trailing line. No one else had been cut off. It was a small syndicate, and I knew that. And I'm convinced that fish was it. But I carried on that spot, basically. And the following week, I'd gone back in there. First night, I got cleaned out again. I'm thinking, what's going on here? It was like, one night I'd get cleaned out, and the next night I wouldn't, and then I got cleaned out again. For my second night, a bloke went in next door in a swim called the Bars, and in the Bars swim, you pretty much always fished out into the lake. So I've got the snag that separates the Bar swim and the snags swim. You swim called the snags, swim called the Bars, a set of snags between them. That's kind of like, I'm thinking, that's my little safe haven. I'm fishing right in the edge under my tips. He'll be fishing out into the lake. Anyway, on dark, he started like flicking down the margin, down the side of this bush. And I'm just like, leave me alone, you know, I'm in my little margin swim trying to keep everything quiet, and all of a sudden the bloke next door's just randomly put this rod down the left where I weren't expecting it to go, and he's putting 18 millers over it. And the following morning, I've gone to bed. You know, I'm keeping myself to myself. I'm in my tent. I'm fishing right on top of my rod, and the spot is not much further than me to you away. So once your rod's out, you're in your bivvy and you're staying there. Woke up in the morning, this like noise. I can just hear like sort of the water going and people talking. And one of the worst things about that swim was people walking around, come around to see you, because if they come and speak to you, if you had a chance, it's gone. You know, and I've woke up and I've heard these voices, and I'm thinking, shut up, you know, to keep the noise down. 'Cause it was early, like just got light. And I'm thinking, come on, keep the noise down. And I could hear splashing. Anyway, seconds later, someone's appeared in my swim, and now I'm like, no, what are you doing? Like, first light, it's perfect, it's prime time, like, and you stood in my swim, like, it's over. I thought he'd killed my chance. And then he's gone, oh, matey next door's got, he's either got a stocky or he's got baby orange, one of the two. So I was like, what do you mean? You must know which one it is. Like, anyway, I'm thinking, my spot's done, it's ruined anyway, whatever. I said, just watch my rod a second and I'll go next door. And then he'd caught baby orange on the rod down the side. As soon as I've seen that he's caught baby orange, I thought to myself, I need to check my spot, because I knew I'd been cleaned out the day before. I thought, I've got to check that spot, because I've been cleaned out by that fish in the past, and he'd caught it on a boilie, you know. And I thought, I've got to check it anyway. Gone back, and I can't really see at this point because it's not light, but I waited. I'm like, my eyes are like glued to the water. I'm looking, and I basically watched it get light, just staring out of this tree down at my spot, and sure enough, all my bait was gone. And when I was getting cleaned out, I could never see my lead. I could always see my lead when I put my lead in. I could always see it. So I used to tip my bait over my lead. But whenever I checked in the mornings, I could never see my lead. And I never knew where it had gone when I'd been cleaned out. But I wish, and something I never did, stupidly, obviously I only got cleaned out, I think it was the 3 times. But I never picked my line up, followed my line, and retraced it to where my lead was, you know, because I would have been able to pick a little bit of lead core on, and I'd have seen the line going down to my lead, and I'd have worked out if my lead was being moved. I'm sure it was, because I could never see it. But yeah, you know, it was great fun on there. I had some ups and some downs. Arthur died, and then I didn't catch that, but I'm sure I lost it. And again, that's something that will live with me forever. But
it's a bit of a theme of our podcast actually at the moment, with Daryl talking about the Burfield Common, but it's not all plain sailing, is it?
It just happens, mate. You know, some carp you catch, some carp you don't catch. And you know, I never done the time on there that made that place. I wanted to catch one out of there real bad, but that fish I spoke about earlier that died, that dying was 50 times more of a downer for me than when Arthur died. And you know, I caught one out of the car park. I caught them. I wanted a Yatey original. I caught one. You know, I can't ask for much more. Move on. That, so,
okay, mate. What's going on in the future? Any plans, projects coming up?
We sort of take it as it comes. We take it day by day. Don't plan ahead too much. Try to do everything based on what's going on. If you're talking about work, I try to do it based on what's happening at the time. Fishing wise, I'm about to go and fish up in the Cotswolds.
You are, aren't you? Yeah.
Yeah, for a place that, much to Mark Bryant's, what's the word? He doesn't like me calling it, but I call it the pig farm, because it is full of like big, leathery.
Yeah, I mean that's a really exciting lake. That
greedy pigs. Yeah.
You've seen it on Cypography, wasn't it?
And it's not the kind of lake I've ever fished before. You know, to look at, a lot of people are like, "Why are you fishing for them?" Because they know what I'm like, and they call them simmos. They're not simmos. There are some in there.
They've coloured up nicely in there.
Yeah, they're rough grounds fish, and I actually spoke to Mark about this. You know, originally the lake was stocked with these rough grounds fish that were stolen and put in. They went in. Years later, a place called Framlingham Fisheries, another stocking went in there. Pretty much all of those fish died. No one knew where them Framlingham Fisheries fish were actually from. They went in and died. And then it was restocked after that with 50 simmos.
That's it, yeah.
And a lot of them are gone as well. So there should be a stock of around about 200 fish. There's only 40 or 50 left. So at the moment, you've got a mixture of these rough grounds fish that were put in there. Some of the simmos are left, and then a few oddballs.
And they're putting on a bit of weight as well, aren't they, at the moment?
Yeah. Since Mark took it over, used to be run as kind of like a match fishing club. Honda that run it, it's kind of like a match fishing club. I should point out as well, Mark didn't steal the fish to put them in, by the way.
No, I know.
Yeah, they were. Let's not call it stealing either. You
No.
know. This is in a time when it was a bit more acceptable. And,
yeah.
But these fish were taken, technically stolen, put into the lake a long time ago. And they're the ones I want to catch, you know. They're the rough grounds fish. Same as like the Neighbridge fish that are up in the water park and a few other lakes around there. They've got these fish from a place called Rough Grounds, which is next to Horseshoe Lake.
That's right.
Over the road.
Have you done much on the water park prior to that then?
No.
Just hooking up with Mark and...
yeah, but it's a beautiful place, and you know I'm going to go and fish for more big fish than I've ever fished for in one stock.
No, it's an exciting lake, that. Best of luck with it. Okay, where can people tune in to watch Cypography and stuff, yeah?
So...
I was going to say carpology again there. Sorry, the reason why I said carpology, actually, you were saying about carpology, were you going to call the company?
Yeah, until Joe was going to sue me for calling it, yeah.
Probably a bad idea.
Yeah. No, basically, I was going to call it Carpography. Years ago, I had a Facebook page called Elliott Gray Carpography, i.e. carp fishing, photography, videography, carp.
Right,
yeah,
clever,
really like that.
Yeah.
I was going to call it that, and that's what my Facebook page was called. So I thought, well, if I'm going to start my own business, I'll call it Carpography. I've kind of already half got the name going, and everything was done. It was ready to rock. I designed my logo. It was all finished. It was there, ready. Boom! I think 2 days' time we were launching it, and I get a message from Joe. And I'm mates with Joe. I've been mates with Joe for years. Like done loads of stuff with him for ecology, and we're mates. And he's messaged me and he basically said. In a roundabout way, I think he was a bit apologetic and that, but I've been told I've sort of got to say this. I'm worried that they're too close together, the two names, Carpography, Carpology. And I've spoken to people, and to protect my own future, if you don't change the name, I'm going to take you to court, and you'll probably have to change it anyway.
Right, okay.
So I was like, no. And Cypography was something I'd already thought of prior to that, but just went with Carp because turns out that's the best thing that ever happened, because Cypography is totally different. We use the CYP for branding all the time.
Well, I tried to say it then, didn't I?
Yeah, people can't say it, but it's you know like the Latin Cyprinus. It's just Cypography. But the best thing that ever happened, you know, branding wise, everything. And yeah, it's not called that, but we've got a big video on YouTube, 4 hours long, free one. People can watch that there. That's kind of just to show people what we're about. And that's made up of footage from the earlier days of Cypography. So it's all improved, but you'll get the idea, you know, you'll get the base of what we're about. That's 4 hours long, that's free. And other than that, we're paid for content, www.cypography.co.uk. Create an account, pick your videos, they're all there. We've got loads, you know, it's as simple as that. But yeah, that's if you want to see our stuff. And obviously we've got Facebook, Instagram and all that. So never heard of it before. Check it out. You might like it. You might hate it.
A lot of good content on there. Yeah. Okay, Elliott Gray, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The Thinking Tackle Podcast.